of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. We have a few quick announcements. The first is that basketball and cheer registrations are now open. This evening's agenda, we have a budget hearing. We're going to be addressing the treasurer, fire department, health and dental, and discussions on COLA merit increases. Old and new business, committee appointments, the River Road Bridge, and then we have a non-public session. So we'll have a full night tonight. This is the first time we're seeing the treasurers, correct?
That is correct. My apologies.
That's the CIP. Treasurer's not here, so we'll
Okay.
skip right over and come back if she comes. Fire department ready?
Ready. You sit back there. I'm standing right there. This is your show. Evening. I'm back
I was wondering why she was picking up the chair, but
Just have somebody to put my
She
shoe.
was pulling it off from under me around.
I don't usually throw things. Just gives me someplace to put it so it doesn't fall.
you can grab that table if you need it.
Oh, this'll fine.
All right.
And you're all set, right?
Yeah.
Just- okay.
Yeah.
Good.
You want to walk us through it, and or how do you want to?
Whatever is easiest for you.
Walk us through, please.
The only thing that we didn't ask for any kind of increase in the 111 account, which is salary and stipends. And that, we figured even with the hourly rate, we can still do, we're doing annual hydrant testing. We're taking 2 guys, and it's taking them approximately 8 hours to do the hydrants that are on our town and state roads. So they're testing them every year just to make sure that water flow is compliant with the NFPA standard. So we paid them we just added that to their stipends for the difference that they're doing for that.
But why
So
are
it's-
we paying that hourly versus doing it out of stipends?
Because it's not a responsibility that's part of their stipends. So their stipends are figured on the training, business meetings, and the calls that they make, and this is above and beyond. So basically, they're giving up one of the days during the week to test that. The other option would be to have a company test it, but they are $125 an hour.
Previously, though, Chief, we've had this discussion, and your stipends are based on the 3 or 4 items that you categorized, and it was determined that not everybody receives the full stipend because they don't participate across the board. And that you were using the balance of that fund to cover
Yep, and that's
for
what
going
this is.
above. But what caught my eye on here is that now you have it down as you're
Mark.
paying them an hourly wage, which from my recollection of the board, we've never determined an hourly rate for anyone on the
I think the hourly rate that I took was that detail rate minus the time and a half. So we had a detail rate of, it's $32 an hour for some and $30, and that was based on time and a half, and I just took it down, works out to about $20 an hour. I mean, I don't care how we figure it, just letting you know that we are paying them out of that additional money that we have that people aren't necessarily using because they're not coming to all the calls. We're taking that money and giving that extra money to these guys. And rather than just randomly say, hey, this year it's worth $100, next year it's worth $200, next year we don't have a lot of money, it's worth $50. I just tried to set a standard that said, this is what you are committing yourselves to and this is what you're gonna get paid. But it's coming out of that excess money that isn't being spent on people that aren't coming to all the calls. We're just trying to come up with something that's standard across the board. Because you had said, take it out of the stipend, but don't go over your bottom line on your stipends, which we will not do.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, Mike.
Go ahead.
So, what did you determine for an hourly wage?
We took the detail rate, so it works out to, the guys that are fire one, I had one that was an explorer, and I think his was down to $18 or $17 an hour, the rest of the guys are at 20. And it was just to come up with some kind of consistent standard instead of, hey, you did a heck of a good job, I think I'll give you an extra $100. If you'd rather
Well, I don't
we did
think
it that
that-
way, we can do it that way, but.
I thought from the last conversation we had regarding the stipends, it was going to be that for those that go above and beyond, whatever the task may have been that you assigned, it's gonna be a stipend. It wasn't gonna be based on an hourly rate. And,
How would you suggest then that I figure out what that's worth?
actually, I would suggest that you consider modifying your matrix for the stipends, and those items that you are now using to,
Pick up the excess.
whether it be testing a dry hydrant or whatever the other categories are that you're saying, hey, when they go above and beyond by doing this, I'm giving them an additional portion of the stipend, maybe put that into that matrix.
It's something that we can certainly look at. I just wanna make sure that it's fair across the board so that apples are apples, so that if you spend this amount of time, whether you're doing hose testing or not hose testing, hydrant testing or whatever, it's not a judgment call that says, hey, Meredith felt generous today and she gave them $100 and today she didn't feel so generous so she gave them $25. So maybe we wanna look at an hourly rate for those things as opposed to just hey, what do you think? Because right now we take, at the end of the year, we give a little bit of excess to the people that do maintenance, communications, because they're doing above and beyond. And we could do it with all of them, maybe it's something we should track for the next year, and maybe we should, in order to be fair, start looking at, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. Because up until now, it's kind of been a judgment that says, hey, we have this much extra, we'll just divide it by 4 and everybody gets this, when in fact somebody might have done more than somebody else, I don't know. It's certainly worth looking at.
Do you have any idea what other towns do?
Most every other town around us is they're actually, instead of a straight stipend, they are paid an hourly rate for calls with a 2-hour minimum, things like that. And I just don't think that we need to be there yet. I think it's complicated. We did look at it at one point. I think the labor board got involved at one point with us when David was chief, because we were talking about hourly pay and things like that, and it just, the guys just, they like having their stipend, they like getting a little bit extra for the stuff they go above and beyond. We'd like to be able to cut it down for people that aren't pulling their weight, so we can give extra to the people that are pulling their weight. But I'm also trying to be fair too, that says, you know, these guys committed an entire day. Is that worth something, or, I don't know, I really don't. I wish I had the perfect solution. I'm open to all kinds of suggestions.
And I'm not sure, Meredith, but what's in my mind is that by assigning an hourly rate for hydrant testing, and if arbitrarily, if it's $20 an hour, somebody else may be doing something just as valuable above and beyond that matrix that doesn't work out to 20, it may work out to 8, you know, for all we know. And that's the inequities that I want to be sure.
And I think you and I are on the same page. I want that to be equal as well. So do we start looking at tracking everybody's extra hours and going to an hourly rate for those above and beyonds? I don't know. It's getting harder and harder, I do know, to get somebody to do hybrid testing because it takes almost a full day. Is their commitment to taking a day off from work worth something? I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do it. And I don't, like I said, I'm open to any kind of suggestions, and maybe for the next year we track it.
But I wouldn't expect any of them to be taking time off from a full-time job to do this.
They do, they'll take
Well,
a vacation day, and it's their choice.
But that's their
I
decision.
understand.
Yeah, that's their decision, but I wouldn't wanna
Yeah.
promote that.
And I guess some of it's hard to track because, I mean, even as I look at my own job as a fire chief, there's days where, you know, I might take 4 or 5 phone calls, I'm not putting that in as hourly time, but it really is time away from other things that I'm doing. So how do you track all that? The guy that makes the phone calls to order the speedy dry, you know, all of that, where do you,
And that's why the point is not to
nickel and diming
track
that?
it. That's why we have stipends, to say, this is what you're gonna get. It doesn't matter whether it's an hour a day or 5 hours a week. It depends on, as long as the job gets done.
But there are some things we have to do, like hydrant testing, that don't really figure into training, business meetings, or calls. Where, is there any kind of compensation for those, or do we go to an outside company, or do we hope people just do them because they want to? I guess I don't know the answer for that.
And I guess the question also is, you say we have to do it. What is the required frequency versus recommended, considering we've had this discussion that they've never been tested?
Technically, the NFPA standard is every 6 months, but we're not doing every 6 months. We're doing it once a year.
Standards are recommendations.
Yeah, so we're doing it once a year, which is more than we've ever done them in the past. And
We have to do the ones on the state roads? State doesn't do those?
no,
No.
no, the state doesn't do those. We don't do the private roads right now.
I'm thinking, where do we, I don't even think we have
I don't
any
know if
on a
we have
state
any,
road,
but-
no.
Well, she said state and town roads, so I just.
Oh,
I can pull them up, but,
Maybe you pull them all together and take an average or.
I mean, right now, I mean, I'm willing to give them, I
We
just
can-
wanna make sure it's equitable, is all I
Mhm.
wanna make sure.
we
So-
don't have to get hung up on it, just, it's
Yeah.
something that, We'll have
What
to
I'd
look
like
at.
to do is track for the next year, if possible, the hours that people are putting in above and beyond. And maybe then we can say, hey, this is worth a percentage, this is worth a dollar amount. Maybe that's the way to go, is, because we really don't know what we're tracking right now.
what's your thoughts?
Well, I know we use stipends at the Girl Scouts a lot, because we have a lot of seasonal employees and camp staff and things like that, and programs. And, we kind of look at what the task is or what they're being asked to do. And then take a look at, again, you probably come up with some kind of, you figure it on an hourly rate, but you pay it in a lump sum amount, like for the amount of hours that they're doing. So maybe, somebody running a 2-hour program for girls is, I'll take for instance, if I go over to Ringe and I run an open house, I'm at an open house for the Girl Scouts, I get paid $75 for that time, and that includes my mileage and whatever I'm spending to get there. It's above and beyond my regular salary. I mean, I get paid my annual salary, but that's above and beyond, and it's extra time, not during my regular hours or anything like that. So they look at, you know, how far I'm traveling from the office to there, and then figure in, probably based on a kind of hourly rate, and then they come up with that $75. And so, something like that is.
We could look at a point system.
No, I'm fine with us continuing the system we have and then looking into what could happen, you know, going forward. I think right now, as long as we're staying within our budget, and looking at what can be done, I think that's the best plan right now.
Okay.
I agree. Let's do it out.
Certainly $20 an hour is less than what the state pays for first responder volunteers.
But it's also more than what we pay
Anybody on
Me.
highway?
most of the employees,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But I'm just saying,
Yeah,
when I put in for grants in the past, I used a higher figure for the volunteers. So, I mean, it's a fair rate, that's all I'm saying.
And it wasn't a
Compared
detail,
to
so it
what?
didn't make sense to do a detail rate, cause that wasn't fair, so. I say track it.
we
Yeah,
can
let's figure it
keep
out.
going down.
Track it and then
Yeah.
come back.
Mhm.
I put an increase in the chief stipend, I know that's not my prerogative to do that, but I was hoping you'd
Say
at
why?
least look at a merit raise. Moving on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I didn't know how else to track it. Education, there's a $225 increase, and that's due to, one, the American Heart Association now charges for first responder CPR cards, which is bizarre. So that's the $75 increase. And then the others is we have trainers for our AED and CPR and batteries and things like that that just have to be replaced. And the machines are older, but they're due to be maintenance and replaced, so that's that increase right there.
Is there a reason why that AED maintenance isn't in the equipment?
I asked Wendy if we were gonna, if we maybe should put it someplace else. Same with miscellaneous supplies and batteries and stuff, I'm thinking
Yeah.
those
Mhm.
maybe should go into general
Yeah,
supplies
I
as
mean,
well.
if this is education and training,
Yeah.
then that's what it should be.
I
Yeah.
agree with that. And my other question on that is, what is MVA training towing expenses?
MVA is the cars that
Motor vehicle accident.
the cars that were out here for a while, motor vehicle accident,
Yeah.
the cars were out here, we have to pay to have those brought down and removed. Nobody seems to wanna volunteer that time. So this year it cost us $200 to bring those down, do the training and have them removed. And because car accidents are our most highest call volume, we do car accident training every year.
That alone, I don't think you want the liability
I'm just wondering why we do that versus the school.
The school,
Isn't that's not the one that you do for the school?
no, that's the ones that were out here that
You
we
do for your
did
fire.
last week or 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Okay, with you.
Yeah. But we can move those so that 5,
Check that out,
Six.
3125.
so $700 is going to other accounts, correct?
What, 7?
500 for the maintenance for the AEDs. 100 and miscellaneous training should both go into either general or new and replacement equipment, correct?
I thought you had a
Miscellaneous training one?
general supply category,
Yeah.
didn't you?
Yeah, so wouldn't those go into general supplies? So 500 would go to maintenance of equipment, correct?
Yeah.
And then 200 would go to, so
go to the 3,000.
500 would go to the 430 account. Fire equipment repair and maintenance. And then 200 would go to the 610 account. The general supplies. Health and fitness is, we pay State of New Hampshire's Fire Academy requires that any students that are taking any kind of physical class have to have a physical. We pay, if students have not, we pay their copay. And if they don't have insurance, we have paid for them to go to Quick MD or any one of those to get just a basic physical. It's not a firefighter physical, it's just a basic physical so they can take these classes. We should be okay. We're over right now in that line item because the other thing that comes out of that is the fit testing for SCBA masks. And if you look at this year's budget, I don't know if it's come out yet, but the Fire Academy did not bill it yet. We just got the bill and just submitted it even though we did it in March. So annually we do fit testing on their masks to make sure the seals are good on them, make sure they're wearing the proper size. So that's where that money comes from.
Again, why would that be under health and fitness?
Yeah, why is it under maintenance and equipment? It's equipment, right? The masks
No,
and
it's
equipment?
it's fitting the masks and the equipment to their faces. That's where we took it out of last year, that's why I left it in the same line on it. If it should go in a different one, we can move it, but that's where it's always been. This will be the third year we've done fit testing.
How often are they doing that?
Every year with their, they do an annual SCBA research to make sure that they're up to speed on their air packs and everything, and then they get fit tested for, with them every year. The academy comes out and does it for us, and they give us a whole printout report.
And I wouldn't doubt it's part of our workman's. I mean, it should be part of our insurance liability, making sure they're
They
not
wanna make
leaking.
sure they're wearing, yeah. Equipment maintenance, everything stayed the same. The only thing that hasn't stayed the same is the hose testing. Last year, I think, was the first year that we did hose testing, and we did it on a training day. But we're finding with 2 engines, it's very time consuming. It takes 10 people about 20 hours to do hose testing. And again, it's the standard that says it has to be done every year. So that's what we're trying to hold to. We now have compliant hose. We're trying to hold to that testing every year. The chart that you see on the right-hand side is a company that comes out of Michigan, I think, and they are currently servicing Dublin, Peterborough, Francistown and Hancock, I think. So when I looked at the cost, the 2-year fire hose testing, the total would be $16.90 if we commit to 2 years. What they do is they come out, they test it, they label it, they barcode it, they pack it, they repack it. They certify that it's all good and compliant, and they charge us that amount of money. And that, again, going back to stipends, we were looking at, if it took 10 people, 20 hours, we're talking $2,000. At a 2-year commitment for $16.90 a year, we would be better off to do that. So we added the higher cost of $21.45, hoping that we could convince you to go to the lower of $16.90 with a 2-year commitment. There is no local company that we can find anywhere that will do that. They come out once a year. They cover as many towns in New Hampshire as they possibly can. Greenville and Jaffrey are looking at doing it with us next year as well, so.
Well, looking at that, looking at that equipment repair maintenance line.
Yep.
Comparing the budget to the actual this year, you're off $1,300. You figuring on spending $1,300 before the end of the year, next 6 weeks?
Yep, I've got 2 packs that are out for service that I haven't gotten the bills yet on, and we're still working to finalize. The compressor maintenance hasn't been done, but it's been scheduled, because he comes out in November. And then we've got some small engine repairs to do this year. We're a little bit behind schedule on that one, because in all honesty, I kind of forgot that it was there. I'm not
So
totally
you
on
may
it.
be over budget in that? or-
No, we'll be at budget. We'll be okay.
But we keep seeing things coming up that, well, this is required, so we're gonna start to do it, and we haven't done it in the past, and I'm wondering, you've got 6,500 feet here, and I'm thinking, well, that's more than a mile of hose, and I think someplace else in the budget, you've got purchasing new hose. So, does all the hose need to be tested every year?
Supposed to be,
Supposed to be. Based on how many uses, based on,
based on year. Just like everything else in fire service, it's years, it's not amount of uses. So if it sits on the shelf, it's still being exposed to sun, it's still being exposed. If it's on the truck, it's still being exposed to stuff. If we haul it off the truck and don't use it, it's still being exposed.
Are they like tires that they dry rot or something like that? Will they dry
It
rot?
just, it wears out. I mean, when they test it, the couplings, even if it's not being used, as the rubber starts to settle from the couplings, you have to look at coupling shift on those hoses. And then if it shifts at all, it either has to go in for repair or it's out of service. If there's pinholes in it, if you've never seen one let go,
And you do use the hose for trainings and stuff.
we use the hose
You
for
do water
trainings
burns
and for,
whatever.
yeah.
So it's not like it never gets used.
but that's what I'm wondering, is they,
No.
you know, you buy something new, and typically there's a warranty period for it that's should last
Yeah.
so long. And that's why I'm thinking the same thing with testing, is if you're testing 50% of your hose 1 year and test the other 50% after that, considering we haven't tested it at all in all these years, is there a detriment to that?
I'm just trying to go by the standard. The standard says every year, so if we test it every other year, and in that alternate year, something lets go and kills a firefighter,
Well, you can always use the analogy that's gonna
understand that.
kill somebody.
I understand
No
that.
matter what, and I don't want to put any of them in any jeopardy.
I know, but you're asking me to say, okay, the standard doesn't mean anything, can we fudge it and just do it every other year? We probably can, but that's not what the standard says, and the standard is a recommendation for best practices, so I'm trying to hold to that.
But we had this discussion when we were looking at, I think, the vehicle, the new engine. And that everything is, well, that's their standard. Well, there's a standard when that vehicle services New York City versus town of New Ipswich.
It's not.
There was. You brought me the standard, and it had said that if you have a vehicle X amount of years, and I'm not gonna even try to remember what it was, and you're using it in this environment, that's the typical time period. But if it's used less, you can go further. And I'm thinking it was like a 15 to 20 year period, and that's when you told me, Dave, our truck is 30 years. And I
Yeah,
said,
the
"Oh."
standard for fire trucks is 25 years.
I remember you brought it in, I said, don't hold me to the time, but there was a range there, and that's all I'm asking. I'm not trying to be frugal in where we are, but by the same token, I don't wanna be spending money only because somebody out there has a standard that you're citing that we have no party to, and we're just expecting you to be able to tell us, well, yeah, there is or there isn't.
I guess I'm not sure of the question you're asking. You're asking me, do we need to test it every year? And I'm gonna say, yes, we do, because that's what the standard says, and you're saying that the standard's just the standard. So if you don't want me to test to the standard, what do you want me to test to?
I guess I'll flip the same question. How many other standards are there in an FPA that we don't comply with?
I'm doing my best to comply with them as much as I possibly can, as they come up. So, I mean, the standards are there for a reason, they're not just random, hey, let's make this one, the standard is test every year, and the standard for hose is 10 years like everything else. So, if you don't want me to go by the standard, just because we didn't do it in the past doesn't make it right, we were lucky.
I
We were
agree
lucky
with that.
Nobody got
Yeah.
hurt.
I agree with you.
We now have compliant hose on all of our trucks, which is a good thing. So now, in order to keep that going, why wouldn't we do this every year to make sure that we continue to have that best practice going?
Can I ask you, is there a way that, you can rotate, like, I mean, so say we make a 3-year plan and we have so much hose and whatever hose fits on the truck, test and then rotate it out and then,
This is the truck, this is the hose that's on the trucks.
okay, so it's all on the truck, it's not sitting on a shelf somewhere.
What do we have on the shelf, Code? We
Everything-
have nothing on the
pretty much
shelf right
everything
now
that's
that's
on it- Everything on
compliant.
the shelf is not compliant.
Yeah. Nothing
It's from
that's
the
on the
early
shelf that's
2000s.
compliant, which is why you're gonna see the new hose on here.
So if it's not
6,500 feet
compliant, why
what's
is it on the shelf? Why
Because we
isn't
have no
it?
spare hose, and if something breaks, then we don't have anything to back it up with.
So this
Would-
6,500 feet is hose that's on trucks?
Yep.
So how
It's
many of
our
that,
4-inch, it's our 2.5, and it's our inch.
how much of that hose is
3/4.
on the new truck?
There's 2,000 feet of 4-inch in the rear, there's 400 feet of 2.5.
and
There's 500 feet of 1.75 inch.
So you got almost, where are we at, 3,000 feet of hose that you shouldn't have to
4,000.
test in the next year, correct?
It'll
because-
be a year old.
Next
By the
year?
time we test in August, it'll be just about a year old.
So brand new truck, brand new hose, it's gotta be tested within a year. There's no manufacturer's warranty or any kind of, anything like that,
Not that I'm aware of.
really. It's
The,
amazing.
the other numbers there, the 1495, you have a 1690, and then underneath you have a 1495.
1495 is if we, go with them and send 4 or 5 guys that will unload it, reload it, pack it for the day. So for the extra 100 and
The
whatever,
extra $200 or $195.
it was worth it for them to just, because again, then I don't have somebody that's giving up.
We have to adjust that amount at the top too. The 4805 now 5305 because of the AED maintenance got moved there.
Yep. Somebody making
Are
those
these-
changes?
Cost that, when that company comes out, do they give you a reduced rate if you have like a group, like you said?
I asked that question and they
Service.
don't. Cause that was the first question I asked them was, would there be a discount if we could get more departments? And they said no, so. And originally, I had a quote of 35 cents a foot, so coming down to 26 cents a foot is, I thought, pretty reasonable. Are we still doing equipment repair and maintenance?
This is so small, I'm having a hard time reading it, but,
With the small boxes. right?
yeah,
That's
I'm
just-
struggling with it.
Your phone has a magnifying glass on it.
What's the difference between 1 and 2?
One is a 1-year commitment, 2 is if we're gonna do it 2 years in a row.
Oh.
Because then they know they don't have to barcode again, so they give you a break on both years.
So you went with the higher price in this
Yes, but I'd like to reduce it to
2-year
the 2-year
commitment?
with the 16, so I would like to reduce it to the 1690.
And they won't go up in the price, it'll be a written review?
I that's a quote that she gave me, so I would get that from before we committed to the 2 years.
We can't commit to a second year, just by statute, unless they signed it understanding that if a budget weren't approved, then we can't bind the town to that.
Yeah, I don't know how that
Yeah.
works, I asked her for a quote so I could put it in, so. I put the higher one, I'd like to, it makes sense to go to 2 years, but I don't know what happens if you make a commitment, if you say 2 years and then you don't do it, I don't know what they do to you. You take your firstborn child and, I don't know. There must be some kind of contract, and you're saying we can't enter into that contract?
Not without them acknowledging in the contract that if it's not funded, then it doesn't happen.
Okay.
Jake, was there something you were saying?
No, I just pondering 6,500 feet to test on a yearly basis is a lot.
Yeah, and that's why I'm thinking we'll go through it and then we'll
Right,
discuss
Look at
the
it.
overall bottom
Sure.
line. Yeah.
that's fine.
And I don't know if there's a minimum that they come out for either. I don't know. Vehicle maintenance is, it's up by $420. Not sure what questions.
Can you explain how state inspections rises to $3,400?
State inspections and servicing of the vehicles. So they do the oil changes, the,
How many vehicles do we have?
5, 6.
Well, that's a question I asked earlier on your budget and your actual. Are you gonna spend, where are we at here, $8,000 between now and the end of the year?
We still have to do,
And then while you're thinking about that, I would have thought when we just spent $500,000 on a new truck that our maintenance line would go down. Because we just replaced a 30-year-old vehicle that was probably sucking up quite a bit of maintenance money, I would guess.
we didn't do any maintenance to it in this last year because it wasn't worth putting the money into it. So, if you look, the R1 and T1 under like flushing the coolant system, R1 is rescue 1, T1 is tanker 1. The strobe light replacement on engine 4, E4 is engine 4. We can no longer get the parts to the strobe that we have on there. There's no shoreline on rescue 1 to plug in for air. The slide tracks on engine 4 are in the pump compartment, which is what pulls the rollout compartment out so that we can get to the nozzles and stuff, and that's just worn out. Pump testing we do annually. Spring, then we're looking at some improvements on the brush truck, because we don't wanna replace that. So the springs just need to be replaced, and this is the year that we'd be replacing the tires on the brush truck. So none of that with the exception of the state inspection would be the new engine.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back to Jay's question. What do you have expected before the end of the year to blow through $8,200?
We haven't done the pump tests, or we've done the pump tests, but we haven't been billed for those, and that's why I was looking for Pete, because I'm not sure what else he still needs to do. The state inspection, or the repairs that are supposed to be done that he had in his budget for this year under the rescue, it has not gone out for those yet. The rescue or the engine? No, I'm sorry, the engine 4, because we were waiting for the new engine to be put in service. So that's due to go to Wheeling within the next couple weeks. And then I don't have what else is due on it this year, but he's still trying to get all of that stuff done that's on his list.
But you're saying you're gonna go through approximately 2/3 of a budget in the next month, which kinda,
I really don't have an answer. I can get back to you on it.
Yeah, I'm just
Because
trying to
the
think if there's,
maintenance guy, he takes care of all the maintenance stuff. So
I'm just trying to think if there's anything on this list that,
we can move to,
that could be used, that could be moved to now and reduce this line for next year.
yeah. I kinda thought he was gonna be up here, but we've been running some stuff with our new engine, so he's been tied up down there. But
Now,
I
do
can-
you have a maintenance log for all this equipment?
Mhm.
So, for example, like when you say flush the cooling system on the rescue one and the tanker one, when was that done?
It would be in the logs, which is why they're due this year.
Okay.
Yeah, we keep regular maintenance logs on all of our vehicles.
Well, the other thing that I don't see on here was tire replacement on the trucks, and I'm only doing this one from memory, cause I thought last year's budget, we had said, well, can't you spread that out?
We have been, so this year we did the rescue,
Tanker.
the tanker.
Yeah, this one
Year
would be
before, we did the rescue.
tires for.
It's just on the brush truck.
Yeah, so this
Yeah,
year,
truck,
we've only
fire
been
truck,
doing
yeah.
one truck a year as far as tires. This year it's the brush truck. This coming year is the brush truck. This year we did the tanker. Year before we did the rescue. So we're only doing one set of tires a year. And then when we get to where they're done, we're not gonna put in for tires till we need them again. So we're trying not to do tires all in 1 year.
Correct. Going back to my first question on those state inspections and services, that's equivalent to almost $600 a vehicle.
So
Is that what we're getting charged? Seems high for an inspection.
it's not just an inspection, it's oil changes,
Service.
services, transmission fluid,
Coolant flush?
not coolant flush.
Well, you said,
Topping off liquids, air tire, rotating tires, whatever we need to do,
What
it's
do
all
you take
in
the
there.
inspection, oil
Inspection
change and
service.
servicing, that's what they're doing.
Inspection service on just the tanker was $1,065. That's just the tanker.
Oh, yeah, she's got her budget.
76.
Yeah.
just an inspection on the tanker? Or
Inspection and
inspection
maintenance,
and
service
maintenance?
maintenance.
Does it say what they did for maintenance?
It's
No.
on bill. I
Okay.
didn't
We
look
have
down
it
there.
all printed out on the
Yep.
bill. That's what I use, that little cheat sheet that we have. Computer services goes down. And that had to do with purchasing of the, printer last year. So this year, we're looking to replace the training laptop. The training laptop will go into the station where we have what's called Spotted Dog, which is our response laptop, which is a loaner from one of our guys on the department.
How old is that training laptop?
I don't know when David was here, they replaced a computer of his.
So,
It was a computer you
5
placed
years?
with David. Probably 5 years ago,
How long?
about 5 years ago. When he left, it was turned into the training one because it wasn't utilized as a regular laptop. That was purchased when we were between offices, when we couldn't use the upstairs and we were jumping all over the place, that laptop was purchased, so it was more mobile.
So is the replacement cost in this line?
yes.
Purchase a new laptop
Yes.
in this line?
Yeah, because you had asked us to look at a long-term replacement program for our computers and laptops. And the understanding a couple of years ago when we started doing it was that we would start replacing the more used pieces of equipment and then turning the other ones down. So like this one is going into the training, and then the training laptop is going to Spotted Dog, which just is up and monitoring our response stuff within the station. Last year or 2 years ago, we replaced Wendy's, and then that one got moved down to the officer's desk, so.
So how many computers are in the fire department?
There's two PCs and
Four,
two PCs and two
two
laptops.
laptops.
So 4 total.
Yeah. And then out of that, we also have that printer that comes out of that line item that we purchased last year with the service contract.
I saw that in a different line item.
Yeah, maintenance doesn't come out.
That's because that's the annual maintenance fee that we pay for the paper and all that kind of stuff.
But the copy is not in this computer line item.
No, we purchased that last year, this year.
Okay.
Yeah, which is why the reduction in computer services this year in that 433 account.
Communications.
Communications, I would love to have you solve some of this. Our Comcast bills have gone exponentially up.
What are we paying $140 a month for, and what are we paying $120 a month for?
Good
We
question.
don't know.
We get two separate bills from Comcast.
Did
When
anybody question what the bills are?
I have questioned it time and time again and nobody has an answer.
To whom?
I asked Debbie, Debbie was on the phone with Comcast, I continually ask why those bills, cause our bill has gone up,
We certainly shouldn't be paying $260 a month for
Nope.
phone and,
nope.
Phone
And
and
it all
internet.
happened when that whole changeover happened up here and they replaced all our phones down there, which we didn't need. I would love to go back to one phone line with 3 or 4 phones that all ring to the
Kalata,
same
could you
thing.
take the task of contacting Comcast and find out?
We get two
What's
different
going on?
bills. We get the Raylan monthly Comcast bill.
Yeah, every month we get 2
And
separate
then
bills.
we get
Or
another
maybe
one
one's
for,
not yours.
well, it's a
Well-
printout from that Roger gives us that has all the
gives
different
them to us.
departments.
Yeah,
And it's broken down by department. So we get that one, then we get a regular Comcast bill too.
And if you talk to Tim, he's got the identical thing going on at the police department. And we have questioned it and nobody seems to have an answer. They've been on the phone with Comcast, nobody seems to have an answer. I agree, it's crazy, but if we don't pay the bill, then there's a late charge and,
well, we'll
But I
get
would love to
them,
go
we
back
should be
to
able to
our-
get them out here to explain what it
Would
is.
you like me to make copies of our regular Comcast bills? Roger would have them.
I
Well, he
believe
should have
Kalata
them
will
too,
have them,
right?
yeah.
so that's gonna put us over in our communications budget this year. So if we can get that to go back down, I'd love to reduce that line item.
We have Comcast, at the council office, and I can concur that, we have 2 separate, well, we have a number of those. We have Comcast for Business, which is our Ethernet and fiber. And then we have certain lines, you have to have copper lines and all of that stuff for the fire things and things like that. But they did go up in their,
But they
Yeah,
don't
I
need
got
the
on
copper
all those.
lines, everything, we changed
no,
the
it's not just the
phones.
copper lines. They went up in all their phone,
But we took a
Bills.
huge jump in our bills when that phone conversion happened for the town.
And there shouldn't have been an increase, it was
Yeah.
actually a
It
was
decrease.
supposed to be
Our
a
regular
decrease.
Comcast
Yeah.
bills
We
stay
were-
the same.
We
Right,
were-
well,
yeah, the
somebody
regular
should add-
Comcast bill stayed the same, but then this
Just
other
gotta
one
get
got
an
added on
additional
top
one.
of it.
What I'm suspecting, and Kalata, if you can check on that, was the first bill that stayed the same, that didn't change, I presume would have been the one that you have for internet and cable. Whereas when we went to the phone system by them, that would probably have prompted a second bill. But somebody needs to be looking at that bill to be sure that they are billing us in compliance with the offer that they gave to the town. And when we compared that with what we were paying with Fairpoint and the cost to get the new phones and
Yep.
whatnot, it was a no-brainer decision to change over to them.
And there was a
Yeah.
$580 install for the fire department. We've never seen that credited back to our line item for the fire department. And that was one of the deals that they had worked out, was supposed to be credited back over a period of time, and our bills have never reflected that.
I don't remember what
So-
the deal was, but we should have that documentation.
they provide a voice over internet protocol. Is that what we're using? Is it a VoIP system? Of that phone right there, and they have all of those phones, same kind of phones.
Mhm.
Yeah,
As of today,
You have Comcast for Business, which is what we had, and we get 2 separate bills.
the
as
other
of
one being
today,
internet and cable
Well,
probably.
no, our Comcast for Business is Ethernet and fiber, and then our phone services for calling. It's rolled into one, so we get one lump bill for all 4 or 5 of our sites. And then we also have other Comcast bills that we keep for for a backup internet line. In case we lose one, we have to have another one on site at Camp Properties in order to.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
not
call out the
applicable
fire.
here. We didn't buy any backup services.
Right, you
Yeah.
switched over your whole.
The
Yeah.
only thing we have is we
Yeah.
do have a second line that picks up, the emergency line.
That's the second line, but
You
that's,
have to have something to back these up, because if your phone is powered, you'll lose your phone system. So you have to have a backup, at least one hard line
we're on a
Yeah.
generator.
in the buildings.
We're not. But we do have a hardwired line.
Run a cord up the road.
Yeah.
So Dave,
Probably looking at this.
She's got 6,500 feet of hose.
as of right now, Dave, on 3/29 was the first bill we got for the install of 580. With 580 plus the extra charges, we're up to $1,405 worth of extra charges. Extra bills, $1,400.
But when you're signing off on that invoice, what are those extra charges?
It comes in as
Excuse me.
the Roger bill, the Roger phone bill that he just circles the thing.
He
and
just
shows us
circles
what
it
the
and
thing
says
is.
FD initial here,
Well, no, FD needs to look at that bill and
Which he
say,
has tried several
which
times.
I've tried several times. I've come
It
up
really
here and-
doesn't break it down, there's a packet he gives you about this big,
And
and it
if-
doesn't break
if
anything
you
down to
talk-
tell you what it's for.
And if you talk to Debbie, Debbie has spent hours on the phone trying to straighten this out, and it still hasn't been straightened out. Like I said, the
but
police
the easiest thing
department-
I think it is to get Comcast to come here.
Yeah, because I know we're not the only department. So,
First time hearing of this, so $1,400.
We're, as
Just
of
in
right now,
extras.
just the extra charges above and beyond what we had budgeted for.
And that doesn't include, or does include that 590
That's the 580 is included.
That's in there.
yeah,
So
so we're
above-
off $824.58.
Still $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, we still have 2 months to go, because we just paid October's bill. So, I would love to have a solution, because we don't need anything fancy, we don't need,
You just need to say hi.
we don't need extensions, I don't need to call up here on an extension. We don't need anything, we just need a phone. Phone that rings in 3 places is all I need, is all we need. Well, an internet, yeah.
Guess the other option is if we don't hear from them to come in, is if you could contact Consolidated, see what they could give to us for a package.
That's what Tim said, bring me back Consolidated, come on.
Something wrong, because when I put the fax line in downstairs, it turned out that they were the most expensive line to put in. And that's not a Comcast line on the fax machine. So,
Yeah, we got rid of our fax line and everything, so.
it's changed.
So I hope to see that line item go down. Nothing changes under dues, subscriptions and fees.
Stand under communications.
Oops, sorry, go ahead. Oh, yeah. On the very back page is that communication equipment lead. And that's how that breaks down to $32.49.
Every year we go through this
Yep.
pager phones, whatever they,
Yeah.
all that equipment, and I would have thought by now we're all new and good. Cause wasn't there something within the last couple of years between your communication and the police communication that we had to upgrade everything? Part of that Homeland Security in order to talk to each other in an emergency that we upgraded.
In the last couple of years?
So, that was some years ago, that was when they did the narrow banding of the frequencies.
which I believe we had to replace some of the mobiles in the trucks, if I'm not mistaken, or was that?
It's not my
I don't remember
memory
anything with
that we
Homeland
did
Security.
something, didn't we? And I thought it was more with the communications that would happen between a fire department and a police department and say an outside entity that you would need to communicate with. Something about, through that Homeland Security change,
We did get a grant years ago to purchase portable radios.
Oh, yeah, that was,
I don't think this was
No, that
a
was-
grant. This
that
I thought
was
was like a
20 years ago.
mandatory thing by January 1st of such and such a year, you had to be compliant. No?
The interoperability, is that what you're thinking of? Is that the buzzword?
yeah, but that was
Sounds
20 years
good.
ago.
That was
No.
after 9/11.
That was right after 9/11.
No, this was more within the last.
I will tell you that one of the things that we're looking at, this year we only looked for 2 new pagers, just in case we have any that go defunct, so that we have a couple on the shelf. But I'm also exploring the possibilities, and I've been in communications with Monadnock Chiefs Association as well, to look at, there are all kinds of apps that are coming out for people's phones. And right now, one of the ones that we're looking at is called eDispatch. And eDispatch picks up what's coming out of the dispatch center and goes directly to an app on the phone. So if that ever becomes where it's, and I'm assuming within the next year, and we're trying to get a price as a Monadnock Chiefs Association on what that would cost. As that becomes more solid and more reliable, we will probably move in that direction. Because people then don't have to carry these, there's no maintenance on these, everything is done, and then there's just an annual service fee is what there is.
Another one.
Yeah, but it's less than buying pagers. I mean,
We hope.
pagers are $500
$500
bucks a piece.
450 on this sheet.
Well, sorry, plus shipping, right?
It's always that shipping that gets you, huh?
Shipping and handling.
Order through Prime, it's free.
And so, am I understanding that app would then be put on
Then
the individual's
yeah.
cell phone?
Yeah, Cody, uses it on,
Your own
Peterborough
personal.
Fire is using it right now.
Your own personal phone?
Yeah.
The app's free.
The app
I'm
is
sure
free.
the app
it's
is
the-
free, but I'm just wondering about the service,
That's why we
cell
haven't,
service, everybody's got different.
that's why we
providers, and I'm
haven't
just wondering
moved,
if
that's
it's
why we didn't
reliable.
move on it this year, because there's still that, you go around by Caleb and Grace Shaw's and there's no cell service. There are places in town where we still don't have any cell phone service. So until that can be beefed up, it's kind of a little bit dangerous just to rely on it. So we're just kind of checking it out and exploring it, and we're actually looking at it in combination with our dispatch center. And part of it has come up that if we're paying X amount for our dispatch center, shouldn't some of this be part of their fees? So that conversation isn't over yet either.
So what out of this addendum A is required versus what you would like?
We took off everything that we would like. We have 2 pagers just to put on the shelf in case somebody drops theirs in the water or whatever, because if we have to replace it, we don't have $450. Batteries, we go through quite regularly. We're replacing batteries, what would you say, every other year or so for pagers?
Yeah,
So we have 25 members that all have pagers, and batteries we go through, like I run 2 batteries on mine because my charger doesn't work. So I swap the batteries out every other night and put a fresh battery in the charger and then put the other battery into the pager.
So what's a pager amplifier?
Pager amplifier is a little box that sits, that you plug into your household that kind of beefs up that signal, because we found that we've got a couple of people who their pagers don't go off for whatever reason, whether they're down in a valley or where they are. So one of them is out right now with one of the guys, and then we need another one for one of our other members. And we've swapped out pagers with him, we've had him move pagers around in his house, and it just doesn't seem to be working. So had them put it by the window, take them away from the computer. So the pager amplifier just kind of beefs that signal and rebroadcasts it.
We've also worked to have our dispatch center broadcast the initial tone on multiple antennas in different sites, just so that we're getting it from 2 different locations. It seems to alleviate some of the issue with some of the other members in the department, but there's still some people that aren't getting pages while they're at home.
Mobile programming.
That is to put, a few years ago, the, on each radio, there is like a panic button that you push if something happens, you get trapped in a building, whatever, you push it and that alerts dispatch that there's a firefighter that's in trouble. Those were all, for whatever reason, when the radios were put in place, those were all disabled. And that is part of the protocols for firefighters to have those active. So we've got it scheduled, we'd like to schedule those to bring those back and activate those buttons again.
So why,
So that's that program.
so why would we only be activating 10 if we have 25?
I believe that's an hourly rate.
That's more or less 10 hours instead of per, it's 10 hours total, and that would be the hourly rate.
Okay.
That was the estimate they gave us for the time it would take to do them.
And what's the install and repair general hours? What's,
So we have, whenever we have an officer leave, like we have one retiring at the end of this year and stepping down, we have to have the radio taken out of their vehicle and placed in another vehicle. So we have someone come out, we have to have antennas removed, wiring removed, placed in a new vehicle, so we have Beltronics usually come out and they'll do all of that for us. Sometimes the person will take it out of their vehicle, but we have to have it professionally installed, so we know it's done right, there won't be any issues. So we have Beltronics come out and do that. And random things just pop up throughout the year that something breaks or something, we need to have them come out and do so. So that's what that's for. And Beltronics has to come out, or someone has to come out and program our stuff, or install that stuff.
Who has radios in their vehicle?
All
Everybody?
our officers.
Just the line officers.
Who respond direct, anyone who responds direct, all the line officers.
And they all
that
have them
work for
because they sometimes go direct, or other times they are the wardens on call for the week, so they would respond directly to handle anything like that. But the average firefighter, and they don't keep those radios belong to us. So it's just the install that we have to put them in their vehicles. Anything else on communications? Dues, subscriptions, and fees stayed the same.
Was the 720 added this year? Because that wasn't in last year's budget. That came in later.
The what?
iPads.
The iPads, didn't it? That came out of your,
Communications.
That's in communication.
Yes, that's coming in.
that's where I still am. I didn't get down to the next one yet.
I flipped.
Oh.
No, I was
Just
on
communications.
addendum A or something on the back there.
Yeah,
You flipped.
Yeah.
it will be $60 a month. We delayed activation on that just because we're over in our communications budget right now on the iPads. So the iPads are all set, ready to go.
So
But I
they
haven't-
haven't been working now?
We didn't activate them, so we haven't paid the $60 a month because I was worried about us being over in communications. That's what
Okay.
you're supposed to say, atta girl.
Bad girl. Just keep coaching me.
I take it where I can get it. Now dues, subscription and fees? Nothing there has changed.
Out of all of these
Lift.
entities,
Mhm.
what do we get as a town?
much is overlap?
So I did away with a couple of them this year. The NFPA annual fee gives us, access to the fire codes online, all of them. So I can pull them up whenever I need them. Southwest New Hampshire annual fees, we're members of that association. We have a little bit of input into things that they do in addition to the bill that they send us, but decisions that are made, they have an annual meeting every year that we go to and we have input on, yes, we agree with the decisions they're making, no, we don't, but I suppose we don't get much out of it, but can't
That's the
imagine
fire
being a
chief's
member.
one?
No, that's Southwest is the dispatch one, but there's a chiefs association that's in conjunction with that.
That's what I'm thinking this is that not this?
Southwest New Hampshire is
Hampshire.
the chiefs association
The
for the
chiefs.
western side of the state.
Correct,
Yeah.
okay, so that's the chiefs.
Rover is our spotted dog that gives us the reports that come to everybody's phones, tracks the trucks, where they're going, lets us tell who's in service, who's out of service, all that. So that's our annual fee for that.
Yeah.
NFPA annual fee gives us access to all of the codes, gives us a discount on all of our stuff for fire prevention, by being members there. Firehouse is our, annual fee that we have to have a firehouse in order to enter all of our information on all of our calls into the database that goes to the state, and that's Firehouse. So that's our reporting system to the state, fire marshal's office.
And every single town has that?
Yes, at least I assume every single town has it, because you have to report to this, you have to report all of your calls to the state. And if you don't, they let you know that you're behind. And then they send nasty grams. And they're tracking statistics and things like that.
This is like an unfunded
If
mandate.
you went
Mhm.
along,
Penalize us, or?
I don't know, I know that's what it costs us. New Hampshire Association of Fire Chiefs is the state fire chiefs association. They're responsible for lobbying, if you read the new cancer, directives that just came out, those are coming with support of the New Hampshire Association of Fire Chiefs. Fire Prevention Society is just a group of people that, I lost my train of thought, inspectors. So inspectors, investigators and stuff.
Can some of these go away? That aren't really applicable to the town getting any benefit out of it?
But they do give us a benefit.
Okay, tell me
like-
what they are.
Well, the biggest one would be either having a voice in the say on the way that the fire service is going. So for the example, New Hampshire Association of Fire Chiefs.
Yeah.
We have a say in legislation, we have a say in things like that. Monadnock Chiefs is, the group of fire chiefs here, so we have a say in going to Southwest and saying, hey, we think you should be looking at E9, E-dispatch, things like that. So it's a way for us to get together and kind of show our strengths as opposed to being just one fire chief, I suppose.
The other thing to add to that is, the groups like Monadnock Fire Chiefs, they also put on classes with the dues and fees, so they host classes that are free of charge. So it's an additional training expense in some cases that we don't have to front.
Is that the Southwest?
Well, in particular,
Southwest does?
they both do. Monadnock area fire chiefs have also supported some Fire One training classes, which have had decreased costs in the past years. So just because they picked up some of the funding on it.
Southwest just brought in
Fire chief, fire battalion chief from New York.
from New York, fire chief and a police chief from New York as a guest speaker,
So Southwest and the Monadnock area
Yeah. So being a part-
participate in some type of training?
Yeah, so they do provide training resources throughout the year.
And the
What's
last
SM
one, what?
What's the SMFA?
The last one is the Sauhegan Mutual Fire Aid Association, that annual fee is a dues, but it's also, we buy into the phone bank, and that covers our dues for the phone bank. It also covers our percentage of the hazmat team, which is a regional hazmat team. So that annual fee is not just a dues, it's a hazmat team, the water rescue team, the phone bank, so it's a combination thing, which is why it's a whole lot higher than the rest of them.
Have we ever used them?
No?
The-
Yes,
the
we
hazmat
have,
team.
we use the hazmat team at the mill. We've used the hazmat team a couple times.
Let's use another truck then.
And the foam, we did have to use the foam, I don't know how many years ago it was, but we had that drilling truck roll over on.
Yeah, on 124, them.
Oh,
Yeah.
But
That's
and
a long
foam-
time
Before
ago.
my time.
The foam is one of those
Oh, wow.
costly things where we could buy it on our own, but every so often it has to be replaced just because it does go bad. So by buying into the foam bank, we have the opportunity to take it in whatever is needed.
But you would have to wait till it comes from Nashua, is it?
No, it's strategically placed throughout the region, so our closest one right now is Wilton.
Okay.
So after you use either of these services you've mentioned, is there a fee? Do they send you a bill as well, or is this $1,000 cover?
No, that $1,000 would cover it, and then if there was any additional billing, like in the tanker rollover, they would probably bill the company directly.
But that phone, when you say that we could have it, that's not like in a special truck or something?
No, it's containers of foam.
Containers.
And I would, and I'm just gonna go like out on a limb here, but I would hazard a guess that at the next meeting, that may go down. Just because they're trying to limit the usage of Class B foam because of the contamination of water systems. So a lot of this is Class B foam that is on stock here, and you're gonna see a significant reduction in Class B foam.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of stuff about the fire academy on the
Yeah.
news last week
Yeah,
about
there
it.
was, yeah,
Yeah.
cause AFFF and all of those Class B foams are contaminating water sources. So I would hazard a guess that's going down, but they haven't had a meeting yet, they have a meeting, they meet quarterly, so.
David, if you get in an accident in front of your house, don't let them use it. Just put the fire bird at some point.
Oh, there's no water over there, is there?
Center of town, yeah.
Mileage increased just because of getting rid of the command vehicles, so the fuel on the fuel line went down in order to increase mileage for personal vehicles.
Where is that vehicle now?
It's still across the street from us. I brought the title up to Carlotta the other day.
Keep that on our things to do, cause we didn't do anything with that. We've got
Yeah.
the,
I added that to our ongoing business report.
but
Yeah.
she had given us that
Yeah, we
business
have to
card.
call. Well, she just emailed it to us, I think is all.
Is that how it came?
Yeah, she emailed it to us.
That
We need to call.
yeah.
General supplies went up.
They got it, took more hundred more for that. From the 80 batteries and
Yeah,
miscellaneous
and then it'll go up another $100 with the reduction from the training budget.
What's the difference
200.
between your two explanations on that mileage thing? The increase due to department lacking command vehicle and fuel line adjusted to reflect use of personal vehicles instead of town vehicle.
So the increase in this, in the 580 account, is because of the lack of command vehicle. And then the fuel line, which is the 635 account, we decreased. So that, where it says fuel line adjusted, it should say fuel line adjusted down to reflect the use of POVs instead of town vehicle.
So in other words, we're paying mileage, and we don't have the fuel tax anymore, because we don't have the vehicle.
Correct. And basically,
And is that
It's
mileage
just
just
mine.
for one vehicle, your vehicle?
it's my vehicle and then anybody that's going to a class, so we pay mileage for anybody that, we have two guys, Matt is one of them that just finished fire too, and they rode together and we paid alternate mileages for whoever was driving that week.
How are you calculating your fuel line?
We didn't, Wendy, you're gonna have to explain that one, on the 635 account?
Mm-hmm.
I just went off of what we've been using. What our average has
We
been
didn't
for
have
the
a
last
we
month.
didn't have a price per gallon yet, so, and we didn't get one from,
You should have.
We
Should've.
got one
All the
about
all
a week
departments.
ago, and I have not had time to adjust it. But I know the figure you gave me was higher than what I was seeing on the bills.
But what are you using for mileage if you've tracked it annually on the vehicles? Do you know? Nobody knows.
general supplies,
You guys track mileage on trucks?
what?
I asked them if they track mileage on trucks and they didn't track it out. Yeah.
Oh, no.
It would be tracked on the bill that we get.
How much?
Mileage.
Yeah, that it's built in. You have to get the
Right.
bills from Roger and look for into them and find it out. Which I'd be more than willing to do for you if you want.
No, no. I guess what I'm just not able to track here is under your, you've got it listed as 580 for mileage. But then we've got a 635 for fuel.
Yeah, 580 is what we pay on POVs based on mileage.
Is that a new line item or has that always been there?
No, that's always been there. I don't know if it's always been there, but it was there last year.
So that you're going from a budget of 200,
300,
To 12.
2017 is 2, 3, and now we're going to 12.
to date, the mileage on my car has been $535.83.
Is that paid at the what, the federal,
Oh, no. No, it's paid at 35 cents a mile, which is way below the federal rate.
Because if you look at what the federal rate comprises of, there's a lot of items in there that the board had discussed that, you know, they're not really part of the mileage reimbursement, shouldn't be part of an average mileage reimbursement rate. So that's how that came up.
We are over budget on a line item right now by about $648. We have 2 firefighters that just finished class, that we're submitting bills, and we got 2 more months of merit bills. Minimum. So that's gonna be more in the negative by the end of the year.
And we're looking at, the reason we went up the reason we went up to $1,200 is we have potentially 1 to go to fire 1 and at least 3 to go to fire 2, which we budgeted for, which is gonna be, we'll be paying their mileage as well. So that's why we raised it by 900 as opposed to just the reduction of $500 on the 635 account.
is there no plan to replace that command vehicle?
Not right now. I think in the,
Well, we have a vehicle down there that we, what's the other cruiser that's sitting in the highway department garage?
Oh, Crown Vic, is that still on?
I'm just curious
Last time-
if there's
no.
something,
There was conversations about that, the other conversation was one of the, when the police cruisers get rotated, was taking one of those. But I know there's that other vehicle that's down there now, I don't know what the history of that is.
Yeah, I don't,
But
I couldn't tell you off the.
this summer it was down there, so I'm presuming it's still there.
Yeah, they used
And
to
I know that was
details.
his backup car.
yeah, and I thought he was like another year out on replacing that, I don't know though. General supplies?
monthly leases. Is that for the cooler?
Yes.
Yes, we have two of them.
So is that for a year or is that for, it says monthly,
Oh, that's a year.
a year?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, that's for the whole year.
I was gonna say, can't we buy one?
No, that's for the whole
No,
year.
'cause then they don't fix
Better
them.
off to get him a refrigerator.
That's for the whole
You-
year, and then
You
they.
could replace it at
they
that
replace
rate.
it. No, that's for the whole year,
So that's annual.
for two of them. One in the fire station, one in the office.
Yeah, we'll change that to annual.
And then the bottled water is the water that we use solely for calls, and it goes on the rescue trucks and engines for when we're out on a call. Which is why we went to the Monadnock Water leasing of the dispensers to save money, because it didn't make any sense to drink bottled water in the station when we could get water out of a water cooler. Medical supplies or consumables that we would normally replace, cleaning supplies, consumables.
What are medical supplies? I didn't think that you guys were medical. I thought that was
We do
how
some
we get.
medical response, we do we do medical response for car accidents, and we're automatic for cardiac arrest, and then we get calls for lift assist, so we need to replace gloves,
You have a jacket? I don't know.
We are a licensed provider, just non-transport.
There's a certain amount of supplies that they are required to have on the rescue as being a licensed, non-transport vehicle, medical
we have to
vehicle.
have oxygen, we have first in bags that have bandages. We try to restock whenever we can from the ambulance, that's why it's only $600.
But we're stingy, we don't do that.
We get it when we can.
Unlock the
Consumables,
doors.
Just charge it on the other end, so it doesn't matter.
consumables, tarps, Gatorade, which we're using the packaged Gatorade that goes into the water, trying to save some money. Speedy Dry for car accidents, anything like that. Hazmat supplies are like pads, for spill pads, booms if we had a spill in a river or water or something like that. Uniform badges.
But this is all being budgeted if we use it, whatever. Is this stuff that you've bought
We
that
keep,
goes over to the following year that we don't need to be budgeting it again?
we keep these things on the shelf that we are constantly using. So, Speedy Dry, if we don't next year use any, we're not gonna put it into consumables for the following year.
Right, but instead of Speedy Dry, it may say another word, but you're still gonna be asking for $2,000. That's all I'm driving at is that. I'm asking the question is, are these items that you already have, or are these things that you buy?
We have some on hand right now.
Mhm.
As we use them, we replace them.
Okay, but it is something that you routinely,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
So so tarps, for instance, we might use it at a motor vehicle accident, we might use it at a house fire, to cover furniture, we might use it at a fatality to cover the vehicle, we might use it to spread it on the ground, to put some of our tools on, but they're those plastic tarps that you really can't reuse. So we use them and then buy another one, or, buy a package of them, stuff like that. Gatorade, we keep it on hand, when we've got a call, we use it and then we replace it. Uniform badges, we have none. Right now, we have department members that don't have any. So that's these. They all have class B shirts, but a lot of them do not have uniform badges to go with them. So we haven't bought badges in probably, well, as long as I've been chief, probably longer than that.
Well, I wasn't even aware that we bought them shirts.
We didn't buy them shirts. The
We do
shirts
now.
were.
You do now.
The shirts, these shirts, not this one, but the shirts that they all wear came out of when Bob Kincaid passed away, there was money that was given to the association, and the association bought shirts for everybody. The shirts that are on here are T-shirts that we buy periodically, and we didn't buy them last year, because we're trying to, yes, we did buy them last year. We bought them last year. They are the shirts that people wear to, if they go into a medical call and they're not wearing their full gear, to identify them as who they are, that they're on the New Ipswich Fire Department. If they go to a class, if the guys go to a training class, Fire 1 or Fire 2, they're required to wear some kind of department shirt that identifies them. So rather than having them wear these, which is quite a bit more money, we buy the T-shirts.
We bought them just about every year, she's just never put them on her.
It's all hidden under those other,
There's nothing hidden in here, I'm trying to be open and honest.
Being transparent.
Make me nervous.
That's their job.
Office supplies is that Conway maintenance agreement. Other office supplies, clipboards, markers, chalk for the chalkboard, anything like that that comes up. And then we were paying to get ID tags made. And we got a donation of an ID tag maker machine, and we just have to buy the cards in order to buy make individual ID tags. And for every fire call, we have an accountability system in place that uses those tags, so they're not just for them to carry in their wallets. When they respond to a scene, they turn their ID tags in, they go on an accountability board, so we know who's where and when.
Is that like a dog tag or something?
It's similar to a credit card size. It has a picture on it. We did originally have
Sort of like this.
dog tag ones,
Okay.
but we went to picture ones because it's easier, especially if you're doing mutual aid stuff, it's easier to identify people. And they were cheaper because we could make them ourselves.
Good job.
Electricity is based on what we used last year.
but it seems like you're increasing it. It says the costs, electricity to increase from 4,000 to 5,000.
Yeah, because we're going to be
Because
over.
we're going to be over.
Right now, we only have $234.90 in that account.
So what do we do to reduce the electrical consumption down at the fire station and in those offices?
The office is on that much, honestly. Only when one of us is there, so.
I don't know what uses a lot of electricity down there. I think it's the old lights, which I think we were looking at a grant to do new lights through Eversource, and I don't know whatever happened
It
with that.
wasn't a grant, it was a,
Well,
Cost.
reduced cost
Incentive.
sharing or something like
no,
that.
no. They had a company come out and give us what the cost would be to change it over by building.
We had a spike last year in the first 3 months where our electric bill was close to 400, somewhere between $350 and $450 for those 3 months. It's now settled back down in the $225 to $250 area. So it's settled back down,
Were
but we
you
did
running a
have a spike.
humidifier or
We do run a humidifier all the time.
A dehumidifier.
We don't leave
Wait,
lights
they're
on,
energy
so
chargers,
I
those you do.
don't know.
Do you
There's,
plug in any diesel vehicles?
all the vehicles are plugged in.
But
during
it's
summer
never-
months, that was, it was
So
very
what
humid.
happened to that report?
Yeah.
Did it turn out that it really wasn't worth? We just did all the bay lights, we changed them all to LED fluorescents.
Yeah, because we're
And
all
in
that
2
old
months, we've
fluorescent
already
light
noticed the
stuff.
difference.
But if you were on
It took 2 years to pay it back.
$250 a month, your electric bill would probably be $3,000 a year, so even if you took a few spikes in there,
Well, we're just looking at right now, we were at, if I can find it again, it's 4,000, and we have 234 right now, and we've still got 2 months to pay for it.
Well, last
So
year
we're gonna
we
be
were,
over.
we were over last year by $800,
Right, we're continually over.
17.
I don't know what to cut down on, because we don't leave lights on.
Well, didn't we remove one of the outside lights or something?
We put them on
We
motion
put them on
sensors.
motion
Motion.
sensors.
The big one that's on the pole
We
outside,
got rid of that one,
and you didn't
And
see
we
any
turned off-
change in the electric bill?
turned off the fire
I
whistle.
believe that was right around the time where it actually spiked, if I'm not mistaken.
They're getting back at you.
We had about a 7-month spike. It was
7 months.
Part of 2017, and like 3 months in 2018.
And at one point, we thought it was engine 3 that was drawing on it, but even unplugging engine 3 didn't seem to make a difference. And the spike came before the exhaust system was put in, so it wasn't, it's not the exhaust system. We don't leave lights on, I don't. We never turn the lights on in the training room unless we're gonna use it, so that, the most we would ever use that would be a couple hours once a week. So I don't know when, I did call them when we went through the spike, and, they told me basically I'd have to investigate it myself, so we started running, and we started tracking on every week how much the meter was going up and down, and we never did come up with anything that, and then all of a sudden it settled back down, and
Maybe someone was looking up there.
I don't know, the maintenance side of this isn't my,
It's that cord running down the road.
maintenance side isn't my,
But has it been consistent for X amount of months that it would be wise to use that as a baseline, or has it not been long enough?
Let's miss it, just the station's like 225 to 250, then we're looking at 80 to 100 on the portable, so we're looking at 350.
Oh,
a month.
350,
Yeah.
okay.
I forgot about portable. So,
John didn't.
good job, John.
You know, got a pain right back here now. Just sharp, stinging pain right here.
propane.
So if I do
Yeah,
350
but that's
a
still
month, like
4,200. 4,200.
And if Eversource doesn't go up, then we're okay.
Yeah, we're supposed to have increases too, aren't we?
Well, that goes up and down every quarter.
How
Yeah,
come
but
my bill never shows
They
the
get rate
down?
increases again, if they get another rate increase, which they probably will.
Of course they will.
But they also get decreases, that's why it's a roll.
That's why I don't get mine from them.
Yeah.
Neither do I. Maybe the town needs to look into getting it from somewhere else, our supply.
Heat was based on usage from this year. With an expected increase, although it may go down,
But
right?
what do you have controlling your heat down there now?
That old furnace that's in the firehouse.
No, that's what produces the heat, but what controls it? Do
We
you
have a
guys have,
thermostat.
do you have programmable thermostats down there?
Non-programmable, no.
I have a thermostat, and we keep the thermostat
You
in the
think in your
firehouse.
budget for, or even in our maintenance budget for a $35 thermostat, that would help down there? I don't know if
I
you,
don't know, because
if
we
you
never,
can efficiently program it for shutting off at a certain time, or coming down at a certain time, coming back up at a certain time, or is the use of a fire station so sporadic?
right now, we've got the heat, the oil heat that's in the fire station, we've got that thermostat set at 55. And we don't change it. In the summer, we shut it off,
So that's
obviously.
in the
That's
bay?
in the apparatus bays,
In the
yes.
bay, and
Yeah.
then what, do you have a separate zone for the upstairs?
Nope, I don't think there is,
So there's one thermostat for
the whole building,
the whole building, and that's set at 55.
yeah. And then, I mean, upstairs, right
Forget
now,
the
that,
controllable thermostat.
there's really no reason for us to heat it any warmer than that,
Yeah,
because it's basically a garage. And then upstairs, the one room that was locked that you were in, which was all the gear, we don't need to heat that, so we don't. And we really don't spend any time right now, because it's not finished, but even if it is, the only time we spend any time upstairs in the old meeting room would be if we had probably a mutual aid company in that would spend some time up there while they were waiting for us to be done with the fire, or if we had a long-term event that we were gonna spend any time up there. So I don't think there's any reason to put if we've got the bay doors open for any length of time, we shut the thermostat off.
Well, I guess I'll ask the question then, if it is as only a warehouse and you're not, you must be using it for something other than, they're never in there just to get the equipment, get out? Cause at that point, I'd say even drop it down lower.
Yeah, but you have some medications
You
and
have
stuff
some
that are on
stuff
the
that has
rescue
to
that need
stay at
be
a certain temperature.
And
Okay.
if there's any laptops or any of that, that has to stay at a constant temperature.
Not laptops.
If you put laptops in, if you bring any computers into, from hot to cold and cold to hot, that's very bad for them.
And we've got iPads in the
Storing them.
trucks, and we've got
They're not
fluids in the trucks, and then we've got gear.
55 degrees is fine, but
Yeah.
If you don't heat
wanna
that
They
building,
test it from very
and up to
heat
70
exchange.
and have that humidity.
if you don't heat that building, then, you know, if the guys.
I wouldn't say don't heat it. I'm not saying
No.
don't heat it, because I'm realizing you have water and other things in there.
But even people's gear, if my gear sits in my car,
So the gear is in there.
the gear is in there as well.
Okay.
So my gear sits in my car on a 32-degree night, it's pretty cold putting those boots on. So, we balance it out.
I bet
with
you don't leave it in
55.
your car.
Well, on a cold night, I bring it into my
Alright,
garage. We're not keeping it at 70. Postage, we sent out more letters this year than we have in the past. Some of it had to do with hydrants, some of it had to do with alarms, various notifications.
going back though to that heat issue that we were just talking about, is that this year's actual has been just about 3,600. So for another,
We have estimated for October, November, December, 1750.95 that we're still,
well, these
Have to cover.
actuals are through November 6th.
which covers October's bill.
Yep.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you have 3,
Yeah, because this was done before we updated this.
so,
And we just started getting heat again.
Yeah, so you're looking again about 4,300 if you bump it up 4,500.
Say that again, John?
I just divided it and then that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. That's why I'm wondering, does it need
Yeah.
to go up to 5,500? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, she has year-to-date expenses as of October 1st. So then take October's bill and add it to the expenditures and subtract it from the 1750.
Wait a minute, where do you see October 1st? Is this
Year-to-date
sheet not correct?
She has year-to-date expenses.
She has 3 months, October, November, December, estimated 1750.
On the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
But
But
you're
on the-
saying
on
that
the
these actuals
PowerPoint-
are as of November 6th, they're not as of
This is
the
when
end
it-
of October or
No,
the
they-
end of September.
We pay the bills every week. We're signing off on bills that come
We
in,
have
so
not.
this is a,
Yeah, but when the PowerPoint was done, the year-to-date was done by,
I'm not going off the PowerPoint. I'm going off of
this thing.
the accounting sheet. The accounting sheet is saying it was as of
3,600.
11/6.
3,600.
Yeah,
But we just, from 6/9 to 11/3, we had no deliveries at all. We just started
Right.
getting deliveries
Yep.
again, that's why
yeah,
there's
they
a
just
slight
Yeah.
filled
change.
the oil tank, so.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that bill yet, they just filled it last week, so I haven't seen
Yeah,
it.
no, this was a Haskell bill.
And
So
half
this
was
was
just
on
came out.
last winter when it was
Hafner's
cold
only
or-
does propane, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we have
Yeah.
propane in the portables.
Right.
Postage?
Sure.
We were over in postage this year, so we increased it.
What do you mail? I thought the fire
Um,
department puts out fires.
She was with her mail.
Here's the problem.
Funny, I think there's a bill going to Hunter.
Yeah, who should that go to?
There's hydrant, the letters that went out for all the hydrant, when we sent mailings to all of the subdivisions that were on private roads. So that wouldn't be something we'd incur again this year, but,
What was
I
the
can't remember
mailing
what we
about?
sent out for mail.
On the hydrant.
Trying to get information on who maintains and tests them. So Cattail, Matthew Way, Old Beaver. Cascade, no, no, those are town roads. So all of those went out, every homeowner got a letter asking for information on who maintains and tests those hydrants, because the town does not maintain and test them.
Wouldn't those letters just have gone to the associations?
There was no association information, that's why they went to each of the homeowners. So now, I'm still trying to get information on who is the head of the homeowners associations. I just sent one more follow-up letter to who I think is the association at Cattail, and I just got correspondence back from the association at Old Beaver. I still have not heard anything from the contact that I had from Matthew Way. So
But
those
we
were
know
follow-up
Old Beaver,
letters.
she's, sits on the planning board.
I've talked with them.
Oh, okay.
Cattail.
And most of them, we should have on file, because when those subdivisions get approved, they have to have that association in place, which we're supposed to receive the copies of, so.
Yeah, but they haven't been updated. The contact information for who the association would go to hasn't been updated. So I sorted through all that with Debbie before she was gone on. So postage may or may not need to go up. I think postage this year is higher than it's been in the past just because of that, which will not be an ongoing thing.
Postage rates are going up.
Well, you've said,
I noticed at work that the two.
Oh, good.
you said that if you registered
Postage
too.
rates going up.
What's
So
it going up to now?
Postage rates.
Oh,
To what?
yeah.
I don't know, it's all
Oh.
various different things, but
Oh, but like if she's just mailing out a letter,
it could be, I don't know, first class is going up from 49 cents to whatever it
it's
is.
50, it's already 50.
Yeah, these are letters.
Yeah.
No, it's 49.
This is all postage is letters. Usually packages we don't,
Okay.
we get them to pay for it.
So do you wanna split that? What do you wanna do?
I don't,
That's up to you guys, you're on a different committee.
I'm gonna be looking at the bottom line. I mean, we've been going through this whole
I'd
thing.
like to reduce it down to
Yeah.
50 at the least, or at the most. It doesn't need to be 75.
We're not gonna make them down.
Instead of talking about this for 2 hours, right? Go where it does the best.
Fuel is the fuel for the trucks. True fuel is the fuel for the small engines, the one that takes all the crap that we put into fuel out of it, so we can run them without getting the sludge in them from them sitting.
Oh, it's an additive.
I believe that's the
It's-
ethanol free.
It's actually the ethanol free, instead of the additive, we actually buy the actual cans of fuel. And then the new engine has DEF fuel, or DEF fluid, so we put in for that. I do not know what the consumption on that's gonna be yet.
Terrible.
It'll surprise you.
Right now it
Doing
has-
ambulances.
Right now it has a leak, so, which they're
Really?
going to fix.
I think Dollar General has it. They carry that.
Yeah, it's probably expensive. Books and periodicals, we didn't spend this year yet, because we were waiting on the state fire marshal's office to come down with whether they were gonna stay with the, NFPA 1 and 101 codes for years, which they are. So we will look at purchasing one of those, and then I just ordered a book about surviving disasters, for community members. So that hasn't been reflected in this yet. I try to keep that down just because that NFPA, membership allows us access to all of the codes online, which is, keeps that periodical and books line item down a little bit. 740. Nozzles are mainly the nozzles for engine 4. The ice rescue suits, we're replacing 2 that are old and leak like crazy. On the seams have been glued and re-glued, and it's just time to replace those. The knees are starting to crack. Fire hoses to keep us excess on the shelf in case we burst a line or anything on a fire,
Why would you keep a new hose on a shelf?
so that when we come back from a fire, if we burst a line, we can replace it. So, or it
It's
gets
like
greasy.
replacing the hydraulic hose. If you burst the hydraulic hose, you gotta get a new one to.
Right, you go and buy a new one, but you don't buy all the hydraulic hoses and leave them sitting on your shelves that then they get old and dry
Well,
out and then.
My husband would keep hydraulic
But
hoses.
you can't buy it at Dollar
In the
General, you gotta
garage.
order it, wait for it to come in, which until then, you're out of service.
They're not on the shelf at Dollar General.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Gas meter, we have an old gas meter that we can't calibrate anymore, so we're looking to purchase a new one, so we have one for each truck. And those are going into fires with the crews that are on them. So it's important that we keep 2. Ice rescue rope, we're looking for 4 lengths, and it's been, as long as I've been around, that rope has never been replaced. If you start to use it now, it's frayed, and it has quite a bit of stretch to it because it just doesn't work anymore. Same with the 2.5-inch hose, we're just trying to keep a couple extra lengths on the shelf. Chainsaw, we have one chainsaw that's basically a homeowner special, little tiny thing that you can hardly cut anything with. So we're looking to upgrade that. All the hose, the same thing, just keeping enough on the shelf so that if we have an instance where we burst a line or something, we're not out of service, we have some spare on the shelf. Or if we have to wash it. The Siamese, which is a 2.5, we're trying to get away from porta tanks, which are the big swimming pool kind of things that you fill with water. And we're being more efficient by using what's called a rural water hitch. In order to do that on the brush truck, we're already doing it on both of our engines. In order to do it on the brush truck, we need a 2.5 Siamese. And then the carabiners, the webbing, the lashing rope, and the harnesses are to replace all of our outdated rescue stuff, which was purchased when Rick Hewitt was around. Once we purchase this hose, we will be fully compliant with all of our hose. Fire prevention, we're gonna decrease by $50. And that's it.
How many times have you used them harnesses since Rick Hewitt's been gone?
Well, we use them for training, actual calls, maybe 6 or 8 times.
That include the training,
No,
just security calls.
yeah. And then additional training, we try to train with them once a year, at least with either high angle or low angle repelling. But the ones that we're replacing, it's not just because they're old. The straps are worn on them, they're starting to fray on critical tension points.
Under the equipment, you have down over $4,000 for nozzles.
That is for the engine 4. And the tanker.
To upgrade all the old nozzles, we have stuff from 1950 in there. Honestly, we
Do
have
they
brass,
work?
we have brass nozzles,
Okay,
and they're just
so what do they make nozzles out of now?
plastic, metal.
The technology has
Closet.
changed.
So part of the reasoning for replacing the nozzles is we have multiple nozzles that are rated for different pressures. So the GPMs and the pressure rating, we try to keep a standard of 100 PSI, and that'll give us our ultimate GPM on the nozzle. And so in the past, there's been some that were rated for 75, some were rated a little bit more. And so the problem lies in when a guy pulls a line off the truck or puts a nozzle on the line, stretches it, the pump operator doesn't know what that pressure on that nozzle should be operating at for the most efficient GPM. And so by keeping that standard of 100 GPM or 100 PSI, it's gonna kind of streamline everything.
So in the layman's understanding here, your nozzles now operate on different
They
PSI.
vary, yes, correct. So we have some 75, we have some 50, we have some 100. We're going to all 100 PSI nozzles. So that way you maintain the same PSI for every line that's stretched.
We're making it
All three, like,
firefighter
can we do
proof.
2 a year? Can we do 2 a year, or?
So that's what I'm trying to look at, we're trying to get a lot of things at one time. And
Put an upgrade plan in like 3 years, just do 2
6 nozzles, 5 trucks with, how many nozzles go off a truck?
4, 5. There's 5 on
5
engine
nozzles
4.
on engine 4.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on engine 1, and 2 in the tanker. And
So you
And
can be
engine one
running
is
all
all
of
set.
those at one time.
so I have the water supply, yes.
That's 12.
And we already have all the new nozzles for engine 1, so we're set there. These are engine 4 and the tanker.
So 3 and 3,
4 and
'Cause-
2. Didn't you say 4 and 2?
There's
There's 5 on engine.
5 on engine 4, 2 on the tanker.
so that's 7 nozzles and they're asking for 6. So what would happen if you, are any of your nozzles now at 100 PSI?
Yes.
So could we get half of them this year?
We could probably, we can, whatever you guys would like.
Don't say that.
Don't say that.
Right?
Now, because we put it back to you to say, you know, what would work? If it doesn't work, clearly doesn't work, it means you can't get your job done, then that's the feedback I need to hear versus, you know, we've had these varying things, we see what the problem is, we know the solution is to do this, but rather than trying to resolve it all at one time, yeah, if we did it over 2 years or 3 years, that would work.
Yeah. So for example, if you say you have 7 nozzles between those 2 trucks, but you're only asking for 6. Does that mean one of those nozzles on one of those trucks is already a 100 PSI nozzle?
So they had 2, right? You said
I would
Right, you got,
think,
right.
I would think if I had to cut this down, I would think that the most important one to do would be to make sure that the 2 cross lays and the 2.5 in the back are done this year. Does that sound fair? Because those are the only,
So 4 this year.
So that's what I was asking, is like, say, if on the one that you have 5,
because then we're
you've
consistent.
already got 1, then you could do 4, so you know that truck and that truck run 100 PSI, that one's gotta run 50 or 75, whatever it is.
So I think if you're gonna do it, you should do an entire truck, which would be 4,
Okay.
and then we would be, so that at least that entire truck is all running at 100 PSI, as is engine 1.
That's, yeah.
And
Then the next year you can go fix the other one, and then you've got everything at 100.
why are you
Well,
looking
if-
like that?
Because looking at the way you just said it, well, this way here, we could get 4 and this would be on one truck and we know that truck would be all set.
But we have that additional nozzle out of the 7, because we're only asking for 6, we have 1 that is already at 100. And if we're asking for 4, and engine 4 takes 5 nozzles, that would make that truck comply, or it would make it consistent.
Okay, let's just go with that train of thought. So that's 5 nozzles, 4 of them are new, and that truck's all set. Where were the other 2 nozzles going?
The
The
tanker.
tanker,
Tanker, how many nozzles on that truck?
2.
2.
So we could get 2 this year and
What
say, well, the
PSI?
tanker now is all set.
But the tanker is never gonna be one of our first attack pieces. Very rarely will it ever be an attack piece. Whereas engine 4 and engine 1 are swapping every month, and they will be, and if there's a big enough fire, those trucks are both go into that fire to fight that fire with those nozzles. The tanker is gonna be the 3rd one out, and the chances that are gonna be there are less than engine 4. So more importantly, because engine 4 is gonna be one of those attack pieces, it needs to have the same nozzles.
It would be nice to have the same nozzles, because we don't have them now.
It would be nice to have the same nozzles.
Thank you.
So the PSI increases the pressure of the water on the fire and gets the water to the fire faster.
Well, so it really varies, so it really varies on the nozzles. Different designs require different pressures to get the optimal flow out of that nozzle. And we just wanted to be consistent within the department, because in the past, different ratings have been purchased. And so now we're in the process of trying to replace the older equipment that's less efficient with the newer, better equipment that's also gonna be consistent with our pressure rating.
Just out of curiosity though, if you had a nozzle on the truck that's at 75, another one's at 100, off that same truck, I'm assuming the pumper operator is able to make those adjustments.
They can make those adjustments, but they have to know that the adjustments need to be made. And with everything going on a fire scene, if we're pulling hand lines off left and right, it's probably one of the least things on their mind to ask, hey, what nozzle is that? Is that the 75 PSI nozzle? Is that the 100 PSI nozzle?
And if you put them side by side, standing next to each other, you could easily determine that, but if they're in the building, you're not gonna be able to
Yeah,
determine that.
you have to look at the fine print on the nozzle itself.
I'm thinking the nozzle's connected to the fire hose, right?
Correct.
That's connected to the truck.
Correct. But they can be interchangeable, they're not always in the same location.
Oh, why would that ever happen, just out of
Because
curiosity?
every time we use the hoses, we take them off, we wash the hoses have to hang to dry, get replaced, and then so when the nozzles get put back on the truck, they can get put back on a different location.
I already said get 4. What are you looking at me for?
Your
No,
bottom line to contend with
I
it.
know.
That's what I'm looking at you for.
Yeah. Oh, we've both already written stuff. So,
Do we have ice nest machines already?
so,
We have,
How many?
we
so I
have
figure
4,
So what'd you do?
2 of which
I
are in
figure we
good
can
shape and
discuss
2
it.
leak.
Oh,
2 leaks.
so you got
Oh,
five
like
now.
crazy.
not now,
Gets
Okay.
pretty cold in the winter.
Yeah, and those are
And-
also huge.
but,
And the-
no, we've already
Yeah.
addressed it.
And
We
the,
both have our ideas on
in
it.
order to put somebody in the water, you put
And I'm
2
sure
people
you
in the
have
water,
yours.
you put 2 people on standby.
float.
Oh, okay.
So they will all 4 need to.
All 4, yeah.
Well, set with fire?
I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Next year. No, I know, I'll be back.
See the treasurer.
I think they left because they were late and they left.
Did you see you have packages like this?
So they're gone.
I do?
I would assume they were.
I don't know, I thought
Well,
maybe they went to the
Yeah, I
office.
think they went to work.
Wendy's.
They just don't.
Did they?
Yeah.
The building, they're gone from the
Well, I
property.
said, yes, 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 because the building, was- I thought they were-
Right,
the room I was using happens to be by her office.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
You weren't
closed.
talking
So it
wrong.
was closed, and I said, to Jessica, I said, where are these guys? Oh, they left.
Yeah, they were.
Okay. No problem.
Do they know we approved their budget?
Do they know what?
Well,
We approved their budget.
you know, I might have.
You
said
might have.
To them that they were on at 6:15.
Oh,
But usually I tell everyone just come at 6
Yeah.
because, you know.
Right.
Well, they weren't even here at 6:15. So.
Okay.
well, we hadn't even seen this, so in a way, I'm kind of,
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was quite,
I like the letter that came in.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Again, it's
can you give
it's
me-
just
you already read it?
I
yeah.
did.
We read it while you were arguing with him
Talking
about something
noises.
else.
I was wondering how long we were gonna beat up that $50 on postage. I was ready to throw a $50 bill on the first
Just
post.
ask the question.
Yeah, there was,
That
there was,
was a quick
there was another one I got beyond, it was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I'll pay for the postage.
Thank you, too, Bob. Oh, you got one?
I
okay.
got,
I have.
You've got
and this is
one.
all my stuff, actually. I got a little bit
Mark
messy.
took all his.
Mr. Doyle, got one?
But he had this.
it's by stuff there.
Oh,
This goes with that.
This looks scary over
It's the wish list.
here. Oh, okay.
It's that short-term, long-term wish list of things that the capital improvement plan looks at and says, if you could do these things with some money, what would you look at? And you look at, most of them are over a 6-year plan, and then there's like another 6 or 5 year after that, that would be either not that important, or they're longer than a 6-year budget.
You'll see all the charts are 10 years, right? 19 to 29.
Yeah.
We do have, Fran here for the Heritage Commission. I was just reading this letter. I know you're not ready with your budget.
Oh,
I saw that.
Yeah, no, but that's fine, because I think whatever you might, give us, we'll just give to the fire department.
I don't think they want nothing.
I know, I know. Yeah, no, the reason why I'm here isn't for the budget.
Yeah.
It was simply that we have someone who's interested in joining, the Heritage Commission, and so I, just wanted to put his name up for nomination and approval, Jason Summerall.
But is there a vacancy currently? Is there a number
there
limit
is.
on the Heritage?
Well, there
Is
is
there?
a vacancy, yes.
Because I don't remember seeing one come in, that's why typically we get a letter that says so-and-so's resigned or
Well, we didn't do
nothing. Okay.
anything like that with it. Well, the interesting thing is, that David passed away, so, but I
He
can
was
write
on-
a letter and ask, yeah, I can write a letter and ask that his position be filled. But,
No. That's,
It's up
I
to you
didn't know
guys.
that Dave was one of the members that was on it.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think there's a spot empty besides that one, if I remember correctly.
well, there was a discussion to increase the number of members, but I, you know, and this goes back to our group, because we don't really have a quorum very often. So I don't know about increasing the membership, but I think we need to have an odd number,
Can you check the RSA to see what your numbers need to be?
5, and they can be,
5.
Minimum
5 is
five,
current.
yeah. But I don't think to exceed
It goes
seven.
up to 7 or maybe even 9,
Seven,
I'm not
I
sure,
thought.
but,
Thought
yeah.
it was seven.
We can increase it, but there's no point, I don't think, in increasing it right now, because I don't see that there's any interest. And based on the membership that we have now, it's not very often that we have a quorum so that we can meet.
How many members now do you currently have? 4?
4. Yeah.
And they're not active?
Mark and I are very active members, but we'll sit in the
I
parking
missed-
lot and see if anyone shows.
Well, yeah, what happened the last 2 meetings, you guys might have met and I missed one, but one of the meetings, Mark and Fran showed up, and that was it. And then the next meeting, myself and, I can't remember who it was that showed up. Who was the fourth? Is it Stan? Is that his name?
Stan?
Yeah. Showed
Oh,
up. So-
Mark and I were at the meeting, but you guys went to a different meeting, right?
No, we were here, because we met with, I can't remember her name, the one that had all the information on Peppermint Corner.
Norma
Strader,
Strata,
right. We were here, and
but that was not our meeting.
it was. It was a scheduled heritage, it was
Oh, it was?
the third Thursday, 6
Oh,
o'clock.
all right, then maybe I was not in town or something.
Yeah, but anyway,
Okay.
you're right, it's been like ships passing in the
Yeah.
night to get a quorum, so My
Yeah.
thought is if we had 5, we'd have a better chance, but anyway.
So do you have more than one person that's been interested, or no?
No, we've put stuff in the, town of, on the website, town of New Ipswich website, and.
Do you wanna entertain a
No
motion?
one's expressed an interest
All
really.
right, entertain a motion to accept the Heritage Commission's appointment of Jason Somro.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just for my clarification's sake, would this appointment be through a certain period of time?
Would be to fulfill.
It should be to fulfill, Mr. Clarkson's
Okay.
timeframe, and then we'll reappoint again.
Yeah, which just, at present, the membership, I think now is from, November to November.
But they should have been staggered when it was first established, so
Right,
that,
years.
Yeah, and it wasn't, we could do that, but it wasn't, but I think that would be a good idea. It was just initially, when the group was established, it was an annual membership, it wasn't staggered.
they didn't stagger it. They should have done,
Mm.
Okay.
Can we do that
Yeah.
within our group and then present it to you guys? Or do you wanna tell us what you think we should do, and, because I think staggering is a great idea.
I guess once the group is established and it's going well at that point, maybe, but if it's hard pressed to get people to even
I know.
participate, then, have you reached out to people in the Historic Society or something to that, to see if anybody's interested?
Yeah, what's his name, Greg came to one of our meetings, and it wasn't, we were trying to get some kind of a dialogue going, and that didn't seem to happen, but I think, there's been a little bit of a turnover there as well. So maybe we can do that,
Maybe try and hook
Do
up
it
when they
again.
have their meeting and
yeah,
have like a joint coffee or something and
exactly,
see if something's gonna
Exactly.
happen.
yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Cause we need to get more interest, and actually, because the sill is going to be taken care of in the spring, I think that might generate some interest. But that's like the first thing that's going to, first activity that's going to happen, and I think that might make a difference.
Good.
But yeah, I think doing things in conjunction with the Historic Society would be a great idea.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of similar interests and all that.
The other one is, and I'm just gonna throw it out there, is try reaching out to Ed Rogers. When I think of history in New Ipswich, he's the guy,
Who, Ed Rogers?
Ed Rogers, yeah. He might be interested. And I think a lot of people, they don't typically want to volunteer, but they don't mind being asked.
Okay. Okay. And if you folks know of anyone who you think I could reach out to, I'd be.
I was gonna
yeah.
mention Jay, but you already got him, so.
I know. We changed our meeting days so that he'd be forced to join us.
And I missed one or two.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you,
it's
Jay.
great to have you in attendance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll read this later
You're
then,
welcome.
since we're not doing it now. Treasure fund, health and dental,
Okay, so, let's see.
but that's not the budget, correct?
No,
Right, so that shouldn't be on here. So we'll call that number 5. COLA isn't, well, it would be part of the budget.
So are we not doing this January
They
no.
left,
Here.
we
They're
just
not
got it, I mean, I think it,
One of my questions was this several issues of salary, which my understanding is not a part of that's yours, right?
no,
No?
should
Oh, I-
be-
Bottom line of the budget.
because there's, again, those are stipend positions, in the past, we used to rely heavily on, the LGC. They put out a book, and I'm just, Jim knows that, I don't know if you do, but the book was put out based on salaries and wages and benefits and whatnot for the state of New Hampshire from the towns that would report what they're paying. And it was broken down, every position you could think of, and
By
then it was
population, yeah.
then it was broken down further by size of towns. Unfortunately, for some stupid reason, they decided not to do that anymore.
It's too useful.
Yeah,
There might still be some remnant of it, like an electronic version.
well, I got the 2014,
Okay,
but that's the last one that I've been able to find that they have.
okay, I
And
can
the
check
last,
on that.
yeah, if you could, last time we had asked, they said that was something that they were gonna stop doing, and I'm saying that's
It was.
one of the main benefits that, because, you know, we don't know what going rate is for a highway worker or whatever, you know, so it was a good resource. So now that one came through that I just read, half the letter, that's something, at least personally, I know I'm gonna be trying to do some homework on,
Right.
how do you justify,
Well, I quickly looked it over and I did.
Yeah.
Again, I did notice a lot of it was to do with that. I thought that was not the finance committee, I thought that was the,
you know, just, you should have
Okay.
an input on it, yeah. But
I
I,
do have a question. Mark and I talked, I keep thinking. We had tabled the emergency management budget, so it's like, because it was $1,000 in tables and chairs, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know where, is that gonna come back? I don't see it on the schedule again, and I don't know what you wanna do about it.
he did reply, I know I spoke to him, and that's what it was chairs and shelving for downstairs and setting up the management office. It was not, you know, for a trailer or something like that, it was for the office. And I think you were following up with him, did he ever send it in writing?
I never got it in writing, but that was what he
Yeah.
said, yeah.
And he said there was a note on the,
Well,
backup to
there
it.
was, I mean, I could understand shelving, I just don't understand chairs. Last, when
I
I
think
left,
the
there was
chairs were-
plenty of chairs down there, but, like I said, it just got put on hold. And Mark said to me, what are we doing about that? Because we were looking at the schedule, and it's not back on the schedule, so.
And neither is conservation, right? Did
Uh,
we decide on conservation?
Actually, conservation's gonna come in next week.
Okay.
Yep. You all should have a copy of that one already, I believe.
The schedule?
No, the
Yes,
conservation
I have, yes,
proposal.
we have it, yeah.
Okay. Actually, I'll give you,
Oh, you have to give me a new schedule, I'll just add it.
did you print off what
This is what I have.
Okay, you have that. Yeah, so I just wrote down a couple changes since then.
Okay. This is a typical, oh, thank you.
So is this capital stuff for budget, you have to stay here for this, or what?
no,
This is for
but
you.
that's, again, that's part of the budget committee,
Okay.
you know,
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
it's just that this capital improvement plan is what the planning board is charged with putting together, and they met with all the departments, and it's kind of a, what do we need, what would we like, what should we be planning for, and it's all for planning, for future costs, and I think they set a threshold, it's gotta be something over, I think it's either $5,000 or $10,000, so that's not like I need a,
Most capital are over 5.
Yeah. and the board eventually, we need to look at it to say what we would be going forth with, and then how we, what slot it fits into to try and keep the overall, cost stable. But you're welcome to review it, and we just got a copy of it, so that's why you probably got extra copies, so. Did you calculate what that percentage increase was on the fire department budget?
From what she proposed,
Yeah,
I can real quick.
I didn't know if you'd already done it. Did I do it?
So proposed it from 198 to 125.
About 5%,
Four,
4%,
Or something.
okay.
four and some change.
Yeah.
Pat, can you slide me the whole part?
For the cost of living adjustments, the Social Security put out a notice. Their cost of living adjustment for 2019 is 2.8%. 8%.
Keep it the same.
What do you gentlemen wanna use, if anything, for a COLA this year?
I know the police chief's particularly interested because wages are such a big portion of his budget.
I would think, highway is gonna be the same thing, so.
What are we doing? Is the COLA the merit, or are you talking COLA plus merit?
I'm asking you what your thoughts are.
Then that's my thought. Are we saying we're going to give an automatic COLA plus look at merit increases?
Or you can combine.
Cost of living is the cost of living. And then the merit is above and beyond cost of living.
Yeah, but not everyone gets cost of living increases.
But the cost of living is increasing for everybody.
Well, I realize that, but what I'm saying is, it's, so even if someone's doing a horrible job, we're still gonna give them a cost of living increase for that horrible job they're performing.
Well, if they're doing such a horrible job, then why are they still employed?
I ask the same question sometimes. So,
You understand what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're
A
saying.
merit raise is, you get a merit raise because you've done well. A cost of living raise is because the cost of living is increased and you're employed by, ABC builders, you know, so. I understand what you're pondering, I do.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, you know, not everyone is rewarded with a cost of living increase. They either get a merit increase or a cost of living increase. Like if it's just gonna be a flat increase across the board, I personally am not in favor of that. If you wanna give merit increases, I am fine with merit increases. I am not in favor of cost of living increases.
And Dave, what are profit companies do all the
Yeah. There's no one that I know of that
Their board
says,
determines.
here's your cost of living adjustment.
Mhm.
You
They
know,
used to,
it's-
but they don't, for a long time. I just got cost
Other
of
than
living.
Social Security. and
Yeah,
cost
Social
of living
Security does, because the
adjustments.
government does it, and that's why, what's always been in my mind is, how did they calculate it?
Yeah.
You know, they publish this number, I've never delved into it enough to say, well, how did they come up with that? You know, is it really 2.8? And that's why
Yeah, is it
the
based on?
interesting thing that you brought up before was that mileage one.
Mhm.
Whenever I saw that, what it was, and it was going up again, and I'm like, well, what's the rationale behind it? And someplace I did find where they broke it down to what all the costs are, and I'm like, well, that's not applicable, that's not applicable, and, but on a Kohler, I don't know what it is, but I would agree with the concept of, I would not do both if we were going to do it. And you bring up a good point in that for the last at least 3 years, it may have been 5 years, we've gone to the merit-based pay increases. And I always advocated for that. And as you know, I've been disheartened with some people that just kind of say, well, everybody gets it, and that is really detrimental to the process.
Right.
So, I think if we're going that route again, we need to set the guidelines by what's to be used as a guide to determine merit increases.
Method, we need a method of measuring.
Right.
Yeah.
Some measurement to say,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay,
Well, again, like, I mean, they do reviews, And-
Performance review
right,
policy.
and they, so I always look at it as, you know, if, and we've had this, you look at a review and you go, okay, your average review was a 2, but you gave him a 3. And this guy's average review was a 4, you gave him a 3. One guy's
Fine.
getting overly rewarded and the other guy's getting kicked. So, it's one of those, but I don't think it's fair to just go across the board and say everyone gets a flat, because it doesn't reward performance, but it does reward mediocrity.
Like our board of directors gives, every year they vote on budget, okay, and so this year they approved a 3% pool, 3% increase pool to be spread out across the whole council salaries based upon performance reviews. Of which we have, you know, we break it down into this person's performing exceptionally above this person's average, whatever, and then we do self-evaluations and supervisor does their evaluation and then we put them together.
Explain to me the self-evaluation. I've
So
never
I
heard
write
of
my,
that.
I write my own self-evaluation, how
Okay.
we agree on strategic goals, we have
Mhm.
goals
Yeah.
for the year. And so then I write mine on myself, critique myself, using certain standards or whatever that we have to follow, plus how I met those goals. If I met them, you know, like, there may be time-oriented goals. If I meet this one by January of whatever, if my budget year starts in October 1, and I meet that in the first quarter or whatever, that's an exceptional. If I meet it, takes me all year to get it, then that's just performing my job kind of thing, you know?
We do self-evals
So-
at work, same thing. So we get the exact same form that our supervisors get.
Yeah.
And we sit down and we rate ourselves. You have to put comments, you have to put your weaknesses, your strengths, your goals for the year.
Mhm.
And then your supervisor does the same thing. And then you sit down, you look at them.
And you both confirm, because that's
Yes.
what my thought was, you're using the same font, because
Exactly.
otherwise I'm thinking, how do you
No,
compare an
you're
apple to an
using the
orange?
exact same
No,
form.
Yes,
it's the
yeah,
same.
okay,
You
makes
agree with
sense.
the goals. you
Yeah.
know. I may give them, you know, I may say, this is what I like to do, and if she doesn't like it, or she wants to tweak it, then she tweaks it, you know, whatever, we compromise.
I even worked at one company where it was a circular review. You actually reviewed your supervisor. Wow.
Yeah.
So like all the district managers had to get together and.
Before or after they gave you your, merit increase?
You sent them off. I don't know. I put it this way, we don't know when he got his, but all the general managers sat down and rated our district manager, and then we sent them off to his boss, and his boss compiled them into one sheet. So he didn't know who wrote what, but it's compiled. And you're like, hey, on average, you scored a 3 out of 5, and these are all the comments you got. So whether he agreed or not, it's one of those things. Perception is reality. And hey, this is a perception that you're putting out there, and this is how you have to respond to it.
But it all has to be based on a budget. My wife worked for the state of Massachusetts for many years, and she always got an exceptional rating. She always get an exceptional raise, I can tell you that. You know,
Yeah, it's like
because
a pool. You have
because
so
it's the
much
budget,
you
it's what it is. You know, some years you get an 8% raise, other years you get a 2% raise. It was all driven by that. I just got an increase in the pension from the state of Massachusetts. Only was on the first 13,000. That's how they, there's no increase past 13,000, I didn't do an increase on it. I don't know how the insurance company did.
So it's still been
So I mean,
dated
it's all,
COLA or merit, apparently? Sounds like
Discussion,
I would prefer for us to continue the merit increases.
what's your thought on that?
I'm okay with merit increases, but if there's a cost of living, then there's a cost of living for everybody.
But do you think we need to do a cost of living if we're doing merit? Is your thought that you need
Well,
to
you
do
just,
both?
it's just worded differently if you're just giving a merit, because,
No,
Yeah.
because some people might not merit it and they won't get an increase.
And
The
then
cost
when
of
they
living
say,
Yeah, but
adjustment is across the board. You're saying you're
that's
gonna
my,
give every employee a 2.8% increase.
well, if there's a cost of living increase, then the cost of living has increased. So that's my point. It's an increase for everybody. Not just the guy that's working hard compared to the guy that isn't, it's still a cost of living increase.
Right.
So,
but I guess it's a twofold question is, has the cost of living gone up 2.8%? Because
Good
we
question.
don't know where it
Right.
comes from. And two, well, if that employee is needing to deal with that cost of living, would not the merit be the proper way of saying, well, you know, if you're doing better at work, you're going to get more of a merit than what you would get for,
yeah, good point, sure.
do you think they perceive it that way?
No.
And you have to give this information to the police chief and to the highway department because he has to set,
The
he has
budget,
to know what he's got to work with for next year.
Correct.
For
Yep.
reviews, one way or the other,
and what to put in the budget.
and what to put in the
Yeah.
budget, right?
Yeah.
Then there's the reality of it, that a position can only pay so much. You can't just continue to, I mean, we can't be paying one day $32 for a plow truck driver, you know, so there's the
We
reality.
will be, you know, and then,
2 or 3 years.
well, think,
Hopefully not
15
my
years
tax
ago,
bill.
we probably weren't paying $12 an hour.
I was down there 7 years ago, you were paying a little more than 12. I mean, it's an increase, I guess you decide what you wanna name it, the cost of living from there.
Well, generally, cost of living, everybody just gets.
Yeah, that
Right.
just goes straight across the board.
And that's what I don't wanna do. I don't wanna just give a straight across the board increase. I'd rather people be rewarded on their merit.
So you have to come up with a merit rating system that's consistent across everybody.
Well, we
Yeah.
have had that.
Yeah.
The thing is getting them to implement it, because that's why when we went to the merit system, we went to the performance reviews, so that all of the department heads had to have the reviews done on the employees. But like John's pointing out, that we have seen in the past where, you know, they've done fine and they haven't, but yet they get the same. Well, that defeats the whole purpose.
So I think the element that you're missing is assigning, you know, a percentage to the meets expectation rating and a percentage to the exceeds expectation rating. And
Good,
Maybe
very
it-
good and
Yeah, I
exceptional.
think it's
That's
just,
You
what
gotta
we need to
assign
do.
a
Yeah.
certain
I think it's
amount.
numbers, you know, if it's
And then you.
1 through 5 or whatever it is, and then you get an average of that column, and,
Exactly.
And that's well and fine.
But it's, I will tell you, because I can see it from both sides as a supervisor and having to write the reviews myself, for my own self, that getting people, especially in a nonprofit and, or municipal thing like this, where's the time? Where's the time to do that? Because,
well, they have to do it, they're doing it now anyway.
you know, you have to do your job, and then you also have to take the time to do that review. And a lot of times I end up doing it on my off time because I don't have time, or enough hours in the day to do my job, you know what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying?
But that's true.
And plus you have
Hotel
one-
business, I did that
Here
on
you
my
have
own.
one
Yeah.
chief, and I don't know how
It
many
is.
employees he's got or whatever, but,
Yeah.
you know, so he's gotta do
Mm-hmm.
6 reviews for those
And-
6 officers or whatever, which isn't a lot,
Exactly.
I don't
We're,
think.
we're not a big,
Yeah,
Right.
he's- yeah, no one's doing 30 or 40
Yeah,
reviews.
we're
you know.
talking
I understand.
5 is the max, probably
Tell
5 to
these guys
6.
it's part of their job to do
Yeah.
the
Right.
reviews.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is, it's
Yeah.
part
Figure,
of the job.
figure it into your work schedule.
Yeah, and they're not hourly employees, they're salaried employees,
Yeah.
so they,
Well, I'm salaried too now,
Right.
so, but,
So you're good for 100 hours.
right.
yeah, no. it's-
But the thing is the other piece is, you know, I'm in the exact same boat. And every year, all of a sudden, they send it, and I gotta sit down and do 15 plus reviews. Well, I knew they were coming, why didn't I just start earlier? I know where the forms are, you know, but you always wait until they go, hey, reviews are due next week, and you go, oh, and you're sitting down, you're writing 15 reviews.
Yep.
So, no, in the past, what we've gone up to, you know, it's,
I'm trying to think, 2 years ago, was it? We were, that confusing thing, 1%, because
Yeah,
it was
but that was
2% for half a year.
and that made no sense.
Okay,
That made, no, it just,
so then, last year was 2%? Or
3. 3. And I'm fine with that again. I'm fine with giving a 3% pool. Yeah, that whole thing with cutting it in half made no sense because then you already started the next year in the hole because you only budget a 1.5% increase. But the next year you're gonna have a 3%
Don't go back,
jump.
don't go back again to rationalize.
Oh, yeah, it made no sense when it came out. I'm fine with a 3% pool.
You're looking at me to,
Just see what you got.
Agree
with it.
Agree,
3
disagree?
people here, we gotta have an opinion.
so what are you calling it?
Merit. It's a 3% merit, 3% merit increase pool.
How about a MOLA?
Mora.
So they take their salary, whatever their,
Whatever their total
Total
rate,
is.
Yeah.
total is.
yep, and
Yeah.
3% of that is what they have to work with.
So
for
do
the
you
next
put
year.
any consideration to employee retention? Every other week, there's a sign going in Milford. I'm sure you guys must see it. It's a word sign out there. I mean, it's hard to get people, you know it. I mean, Tim works very hard at trying to get people.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
That's why
And
they
that-
have to do
at
them.
one point, we were kind of given that as a challenge too. It's like, consider employee retention. Are we getting the best for our buck? Maybe not, but it's better than a blank position.
But we've had that blank position that we have been trying to fill for over 3 years now, and we get
We
the
get the-
position filled, and then somebody leaves.
Or we have people that aren't meeting the needs of the position, like they don't meet the background, they don't meet the physical demands of the job, you know.
Yeah,
But
that's been
the biggest thing, is how
And-
far along in the process they come.
And the
then
thing
they
is then you
fail.
look at it as,
It's-
you know, our budget is never going to compete with some of the surrounding towns on the ability to do that, you know, whether, yeah. Milford has it, but at the same point, I mean, you're driving to Nashville, they're, you know, they got the big blinking sign where they're doing the exams every month,
Right.
you know.
And they're not hiring one or two, they're looking for 30, you
Right.
know, or whatever, it's like, we can't fill one, how are they ever gonna fill 30?
Right, and I'm concerned not so much the new hires, but keeping the
Mhm.
people we have.
Mhm.
That's, you know,
But-
not sliding backwards. I
Right.
don't know how highway is
Yeah.
staffing at this point, I just have no idea.
We, same thing there, anything that you're trying to get staffing for, it's just,
Well, I drive
non-existent.
down the street and everybody's got a help wanted sign.
yeah,
Everyone wants to be involved.
Yep,
Yeah.
everyone is.
yeah.
So that's why I mentioned employee retention too.
I think if there were a way of, and now I'm talking the private sector, okay? But I can remember working at places where, you know, you may not be making as much as you can elsewhere, but every so often they'd come by and they, hey, here's a gift certificate, take your wife out to a restaurant, whatever it may be. And I know personally that went a long way. I said, wow, they actually saw that I'm working, you know, and I'm thinking even in the town, if there was a way that we could have pooled a line item. And I'm thinking more of the full-time employees that when they do go above and beyond that department head, whatever resource to recognize. Because I'm thinking that when they're doing the employee reviews, they may be reviewing, yeah, he did okay. But forgetting that one time where, hey, you know, at that time, he really bailed us out. He did something that they should have been recognized for. And I'm not saying for doing your job. This is stuff that you're putting in the extra initiative on.
Yeah, but that's not gonna, well, okay, that's okay for employee retention.
Right.
We have something
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
Well, we used to have the
but
employees.
we're filling a
on there,
position.
It was the same sort of thing. You gave them a parking spot.
I was gonna say, yeah, we got a bunch of them out there.
I'm telling you, you wouldn't believe
Yeah.
what
Right.
that meant to them to be able to park there.
So did you make a decision yet, Jay?
I would be agreeable to the 3%, I'm just not sure what to call it.
Were you gonna give it across the board? Or are you gonna base it on their,
See, I'd like to do both, because there is a cost of living, and then there are people that go above and beyond, so. But I know that's not reality, because I'm not gonna say, well, let's do a 6% increase, because it's
Whoa.
not possible. No, I'm being real, I know that's not possible.
That's a 2-to-1 vote.
So, I could agreeable to a percentage, but we'll have to figure out what I wanna call it. What do you wanna call it? Cost of merit? You guys are gonna call it a merit?
I call it merit.
What else are you gonna, what else, how else would you do it? It's either one or the other. Can't think of anything that would fall in between other than an arbitrary,
I know, and that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you would
Get my
have,
head
you would
around.
have, you would have to do both. Like,
Right,
you would have
do
to,
a
but you,
2%
but,
COLA and a 1.5% merit or whatever.
or 1.5, and then they get the other 1.5 if they've performed.
But it's not sounding like I'm gonna sway either one of you two.
I'm just thinking that if you're
Too
talking,
convoluted.
if you're talking 8%, yeah, we'll do a 2 and a
Right.
5%,
No,
but
I
at
get that part.
3%, I'm thinking it's. So we agree?
We agree on 3 anyway.
Three.
Make a motion.
I make a motion to approve a 3% pool for the supervisors in their budget.
Might wanna
Salaries.
reword that.
However,
As a,
as a, I don't know, salary increase,
you
Pool.
just said a merit.
merit, okay? However, merit increase.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm not opposed.
He doesn't like the word merit.
Right. I'm not opposed to it.
Do you have the,
So it's a 201.
Tie.
can I just ask a question?
Mhm.
I know I'm not, but just curious, so when you just made that motion and whatever, they already do performance reviews?
Mhm.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so they know that not necessarily
Everyone should get 3%.
everyone should get their three.
Correct.
Right, and actually, I mean, and really what it comes down to is, they have that pool of money. For every one, they can give a 4.
Right.
Okay. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a 3%
Right.
pool of money.
Pool, right, okay.
So if someone, yeah, you give someone a
Just the
1, you
that
can give
we
someone
all
else
gonna-
a
I'm
5.
gonna give them each
it still
3%
equals 6.
increase.
And that's what we tried
Right.
to tell them not to do.
Right,
And
that's what I'm
then,
saying, I
Yeah.
just wanna make sure.
Yeah,
they
so we're telling them,
understand.
reward the
This is
people
what
so
you-
you can give a 4 and a 2.
You need to budget that you're giving a 3%, maybe it won't be to everybody, but that's what you got to work with.
Okay, so where are we with the fire department budget? You guys gonna, get your red markers out? Or-
Well, see, that's the whole thing. We don't have to agree on that.
We
Like-
may-
Cause they're gonna do their selectmen's
Yeah, you have to do a
budget,
whole
and
different
we're gonna
budget.
do our own, so.
but we
This,
can,
this,
we
this
were gonna
meeting,
work
we can,
together.
exactly,
That's
we
what
can
I thought.
agree.
Yeah, we can,
We-
we
we-
wanna know.
Yeah.
we certainly can, right.
Okay.
This is a working
Yeah.
Right.
meeting.
Okay.
A working relationship.
If the
right.
budget committee wants to come up with a number in their own meeting, fine. But if you wanna work with the selectmen and,
We had met, and our goal was to work with
Mm-hmm.
the
Correct.
board.
Okay.
yeah. So let's do that.
She included Dave.
And keep me around? I don't know. Depends if I agree or not, right?
So so the budget is up 4%,
Yeah.
4 point something.
Well, with the, if you back out the communication glitch, which apparently we're way overpaying for, telephone, that was $1,700 that they had to budget,
Right,
whether she wanted to or not.
right,
So
yeah.
she's actually up 2.5%. Would you have a total?
I didn't totally
increase?
do it.
You didn't totally increase?
I mean,
You
after
mean
my, after
what
my
she's up
changes,
over last year?
Yeah. I think I come up with
like what was on her budget different?
5,138.
So
That's on right. Oh, no, that's
125.
actual. Yeah, that's,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right,
5,138.
28.
5,128.
And that's why I'm not an accountant. Well, you wanna go line by line through this, or you just wanna hit the big ones? Cause the electricity, I'm not sure why they went all the way to $5,000. I don't think it's necessary.
Well,
Well, she
Um,
explained because
yeah.
she
I don't think
didn't include the,
I don't think on either one of those we need, I think both of them could be at 4,500.
Right, I moved the electric line to 45, and moved the
Wait a
heat
minute.
line to 5.
let's talk line items of,
I'm sorry.
not both, because I don't understand.
Line
Say
item
Okay.
both of
622.
622 and
622.
624,
No, we're just doing 622.
Do 622 first.
4,500.
That's where I went, it was 4,500.
Which is a $500 increase over this year's budget.
Right,
Yeah.
$500
Okay.
less than they were
So
asking.
622, you're gonna,
I dropped it by $500.
500, okay. all right, so-
And then the heat line,
624. I also dropped to 4,500.
I dropped it to 5. Just because, I don't know.
You guys gotta come to an
Mm-hmm.
I would have dropped that to 5,
Okay.
5,
reduce it by 500.
yeah,
Okay.
The heat line?
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay. I'm fine
And then
with
she
that.
dropped the postage line to 50, so
Yeah.
we just picked up
That's
$1,050.
peanuts.
Yeah, no, but we picked up
Yeah.
$1,050 there. And then I went
Another-
over to, 610. And the consumable line,
Hold on. Which one? Oh, general supplies.
610, general supplies, yeah, the consumable line, I have that. How many blue tops and bottles of Gatorade and bags of Speedy Dry do you need to buy?
I don't know, yeah, but I don't know what, like, I don't know what one, what you call it?
Bag of Speedy Dry?
No, if there's an oil leak on the water,
A boom.
Boom?
boom, thank you. I don't know what one of those costs, or how many, like, I'm just saying, like, if someone goes off,
I thought the boom was under hazmat supplies.
no,
No, but even then, you're gonna get reimbursed from an insurance company, whoever spilled that oil on that.
yeah, but we still have to show it here, and then it comes back in the other,
You've gotta have something there.
Right, you could have $1 there if
Yeah,
you want.
well,
A boom line, you could put a
Yeah.
buck.
but then they'll show that they overspent the line item, and
take it out somewhere else.
So, but 610 is going up by $100, because the AED got taken out of the training.
$200.
Two-
So
200.
that 47.72 is gonna go up to
but
49.72, okay?
But I looked at it, I mean, just a quick, like, 2-second Google. Your Monadnock Water, her monthly leases on that, so they're paying that $168, and next year will be
That's annual,
$168.
that's annual.
It's still, I
Yes.
know it's monthly, but it's $168, and we could spend $120 this year once
And buy one.
and buy one at Walmart. And literally, all I typed in was water cooler. It was the first one came up. Walmart for $120.
And so we'll say 48 this year.
You said
and
48, and then
168 next
168
year.
every year after that.
Right.
The price, does
No,
the
you gotta
price
buy
of the
two.
gallon jugs of water to fill it
240.
Why would we buy two of them?
vary?
Because
if
this 168 is for two.
Don't lease it. It's not
Right,
their
one in the
equipment.
station and one in the
The
training area.
portables.
Office.
You missed that.
That's for two of them.
So do you,
Why do we need two of them?
Your office has one
So put
and one
one.
in the building.
So put one over in the office building. Why do we need one in the station and one over there?
You should have asked them when they were here.
Well, we could just say maybe $120. You put one in the office room, and you get rid of the rest of
They
them.
could have firefighters working in the bays that may not have access to the office building.
If they have
Because I
mutual
think that's
aid,
just
if
the
they,
offices.
if somebody comes in, say mutual aid, they're not in the office, they're upstairs in the fire garage.
We almost need two, I think.
What's wrong with the water at the fire station?
that was a question I meant to ask you.
Well, didn't we-
Why do you not drink the water down there? Is it,
But I think
Was
one,
it tested?
that's,
I seem to remember something about testing
where
of
does
the
the,
water.
where's
Bad.
the well for that?
I forget what the result was,
Oh.
because somebody complained about it, so they did end up testing it. You know, just
so did you not, you didn't have my consumable line in? Is that,
Well, I didn't say. I didn't
yeah,
say
you
it.
changed the subject. You
I
went
changed
to
because
water.
I was just looking at one that actually made, had a dollar figure that we could make sense instead of just randomly.
So what do you?
But I'm not, I don't feel as though I'm random.
No, so I would say 1,500, and then spend 240 and buy them the water jugs and be done with it, and we're still saving money.
All right, so you want to reduce that by 500?
Jeez.
I don't know what it was.
What did you make?
I
Consumable
suggested.
line.
I said reduce consumables to 1,500, and increase the water, however you want to do it, to 240, and buy 2 water coolers, and that's gone.
Right.
But so I made one suggestion to 1,500. Jay made to 1,000.
Change to 240. And buy 2 coolers. And then doing what with consumables?
I said 1,500. Jay said 1,000.
I'd agree with Jay.
Okay.
And then I'm looking at the
Because
uniform.
what I didn't see in here were the wine goblets. Did you guys see them in here anyway?
No, but that's next year. We can say you don't get
Bet they're
wine
in there
goblets.
somewhere. Now, the uniform badges, these shirts have been forever without them, but now all of a sudden we need to buy 16 of them.
Well-
So why don't we buy 8 of them this year and buy 8 of them next year?
Well, the department shirts are the ones, and she said those are only T-shirts.
Right. Those are some
Right, well, that's,
expensive
we
tees.
haven't got to
I'm
that
doing the
one yet.
quick math, and I'm like, that's $28, $25
Well,
a T-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, she said, what, she's got 25, they've got 25 people on
Well, that's why I was
staff.
dividing by
Right,
twenty-five.
so it's $20 t-shirts.
You know, I don't know, like down at the ambulance, we order some and we put some on the shelf because they get ruined. So, I mean, if we were to just give enough for each member to have 1 or 2 shirts, that'd be one thing, but we do keep them in the closet because stuff happens to them. So maybe that's the
But I
philosophy.
mean, like, why are we buying t-shirts? We have a fire department, you know, we get them the turnout gear, what are the t-shirts for?
Well, she explained
When they
that.
go to training,
Yeah.
they have to have an identification, or even if they're,
I'd be more concerned
Like
if
if
they're
they're,
going into a house.
yeah, going into a house.
You want Cody, walking in a house without a t-shirt on? I mean,
Doesn't
that's
But
They're
like
not
he's,
gonna have
they
to
got
have
the
his turnout
jacket
gear.
with the,
Yeah, that he bought, but I'm just saying,
oh,
you know, in the summertime, he's not gonna wear that jacket.
like I've seen, like they get a quick call to go do a lift over at Friendship
t-shirt.
Manor. They'll throw a t-shirt on, they'll have that in their car, take off, you
That's
know.
fine, then, fine.
Do we need $500 worth?
That's 50 shirts, like if a 10, it's 50 shirts.
The only reason
That's two
I'm
for
going after
each.
numbers like this is because
Is that the issue here? Are we
No.
not, are we not saying that that they're capable of doing their jobs in a lot of, I understand,
But they-
sometimes you want it, you.
They will
they
have
need
wish lists
guidance,
and
I
they will,
understand.
you're,
right,
I understand.
I'm going after this
But
stuff
they're
because this is
taxpayers.
I
This
understand
is-
that, but
this is stuff they can live without. This isn't like nozzles and hoses and
Right,
this
I
is stuff
understand.
that if you can reduce it by half and pick up a couple $100, they're still getting their t-shirts, they're still getting their
Right.
badges, and it's not gonna take away from their ability to do the job.
just to
That's-
give you an
I
idea.
understand that, I
Yeah.
think they can get t-shirts cheaper,
Yeah.
I understand that.
That's why I'm
Well, just to give you an idea, a couple
trying to
years
save a
ago,
buck.
she has on here right now tires for $1,000. Okay, a couple years ago they came to us with a bill for tires for 1 year. They were going to replace every tire on every vehicle, and we looked and went,
Crazy money.
"What?"
Yeah, it'd be a lot.
And it was ridiculous. It was like $8,000 or something
Well,
like
the
that.
tires are over 7 years old, and by
So
the
we need 'em.
standard, they need to be replaced.
So we
You have
got
to
them.
rotate
So we got them onto a plan
Spread
to
it
do
out,
this.
yes.
But if we just said let's trust them, we would have spent $8,000 on tires.
Okay.
And then in 7 years, they'd want to spend $8,000 on tires. Where what we did is we broke it out and they replaced 5 vehicles, we get 2 years off. And they replace, you know,
Every 9 years, you can't
Yeah.
inspect a commercial vehicle with a tire that's over 9 years old.
Mhm.
You have to put new tires.
Right.
That's the law.
I understand.
but that's where we say is they used to come and they would say they wanted everything every year. And we at least got them where you said, well, why don't we just do a replacement plan? The fire department is the first one to go on board with a replacement plan where they go, we want a couple this year, a couple this year, a couple this year.
Yeah.
Because yeah, they came in, they wanted all new radios across the board, and they wanted all new tires, and we needed, and we're like, no.
And what we try and get them to do is look at what's in your current budget, and if there's money left in there now, get it done and
Spend it
take it
now,
out,
get some of
spend
this
it
stuff
now.
Yeah,
And
Use it
that's
up.
why everything tonight
Right.
was, no, we're already got this booked, and I don't see how they're going to spend $40,000 in a month
yeah.
and a half.
That's
General,
why I kept asking the question.
Yeah,
general supplies, they've got over $2,500 still left in general supplies. Why don't they buy shirts this year?
Right.
Oh, well, and that's what we need to do.
Right, and that's what we tell, but the thing is they've billed the town for this already, and then we get stuff that goes, well, what'd you do with the money? Well, it went into this or that. No, use your money. Use it. We would rather them use the money that the people budgeted to the fire department for the fire department than have it go back into the general fund and figure out where it's gonna go or how, you know, and
or
then,
reduce the next year's budget.
right.
That's the whole goal as well.
Right.
If you've got money left over, buy it now, reduce next year's.
Yeah, we tell that to the pool, like, how long does
So those-
chlorine sit?
So I think those
You know,
badges.
buy it this year.
Now, I don't know how much they cost, I'm gonna take her word for it, that that's what they cost, and maybe she should buy those this year, you know, so everybody has them instead of only buying
Yeah.
10, maybe, I don't think, I know.
Those badges are $50 a
volunteer firefighters,
piece.
I don't think it's too much to give them a badge.
That's what it is. I kind of understand part of the philosophy, being an ex-department head here, and that is, you've got so much money, and as the year goes on, you say to yourself, and after you've done it for a few years, all of a sudden, of a sudden, something comes up and whacks you November 10th, and you go, I don't have any money in that budget anymore. So you end up trying not to spend it. And then you come to the budget committee, and David says to you, spend that money.
Yeah.
Which I understand where you're coming from, but as a department head, I can see why why a department head would be conservative.
Okay, so you're
Because you
going,
just don't know what
Did-
might happen.
Did we agree that consumables are at $1,000?
Yes,
Are we gonna do anything with the badge line or the shirt line?
I would like to, well, again, I would like to find, I mean, again, look at it, again, $2,500, is there anything that can be spent this year?
So if we reduce it here, then we can ask her that question when she comes in and says, hey, how come you reduce this here? Then,
Or ask her to come back, right? We don't have to spend 2 hours.
what do you wanna do with it? Yeah,
Which one you talking, the shirts or the badges or both, or what?
both, I'm talking both of them.
Well, the shirts,
it's $1,300.
I've got the rationale that, meaning that they're gonna buy it this year.
If they
Or
can.
are you saying not to?
No, I was gonna have the budget line, but if she's got it in her budget to buy them this year, then she should. And then we can eliminate the budget line.
I would at least have them both.
Oh, that's where I'm at. So the badges goes to 4 and the shirts go to $250.
I'm fine with that.
And suggest that she purchase them this year.
Yeah, and then if she can purchase them this year, we can pull that out completely, great.
So that just, I'm sure that puts her in a spot if she ends up just getting half, then who do you give it to?
Yeah.
You wait till next year to get the other half, I
I
guess.
think that's what I'm saying.
I'm thinking she can buy them.
I think she should
All
buy
this
all
year.
16 this
Yeah.
year, I think
Well,
she can.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if she can get them all this year,
Yeah.
then do it all this year.
Are you tracking?
So that line item with the, cause we had to move $200
Yeah,
over there.
Yeah,
That line item is now $3,435,
34, 35.
$34.35.
where's the one that we moved? Here it is.
What did we reduce the education and training?
Education training is down to $3,025.
What did you? What am I-
So for
oh,
that 3% pool, does that do anything to
No.
that salaries or?
No, there's a stipends, it doesn't affect them. But I did wanna bring up, what is your call on the increase for a stipend on the police chief?
Fire chief?
Yeah, fire chief.
I'm not sure where that came from.
Her,
She
she
just-
said
she
it.
just
gave
put it in
herself
there.
a raise?
Yes,
Yeah, she
yes,
suggested a raise for it.
yeah.
So,
It's a 3% increase.
so I just, I want, what is your take on it?
I
What about
zeroed it out,
reviewers?
So did I.
and the reason why? She didn't give anything to the stipends. How do you give yourself an increase and the other guys get nothing? Had she come in and done it right across the board, I guess I would have had to really think, okay, what's this gonna have for a tax impact? But where it was only on one, I thought, well, that's not right.
And just to go back, line 430, with the movement of the stuff goes to 5305.
Line 430.
Yep, fire equipment, repair, maintenance,
Oh, 50.
Goes to
5305. $500 got moved there from the,
Which line you on, John?
430, fire equipment, repair, and maintenance.
Went to what?
It went from 4805 to 5305. It's just moving from
The
one
AET.
budget. Yeah, cause
Remove
it's
the
a,
AED
Yeah.
and
yeah,
Uh,
and the,
I think I had a comment on that one.
What else did we move besides the AED?
there was,
That's all,
sorry,
that's all, just
Yeah.
$500.
yeah, no, give me one second, let me get to that page.
Oh, it was
Um,
the batteries and the miscellaneous training supply needs,
Yes,
so we moved,
so the AED maintenance got moved, that was,
200.
no,
oh, she has, CPR training, there's like CPR, well, it was 100 for CPR supplies,
No, the 430 account was the 500 from
the AED maintenance.
AED maintenance.
Yeah, yeah, and then the other 200 was
general,
the,
Went
yeah,
to the
that goes
610.
general supplies.
yeah,
Right.
the other 200, yes.
But on that 430, this is the one that has the, hose testing.
Yes,
And I would have said do that over, not testing them every year. Same thing with dry hydrants. I don't think that we need to test them every year.
no, I'm good with cutting it in half.
That's what, well, I wouldn't cut the whole thing in half, just that one line item.
Yeah, the 2145 cut
Yeah,
in half.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's just for hose testing.
just for the hose testing.
Well,
But the hydrant testing, are you gonna keep that in?
Well, the hydrant testing was part of her stipends, and that gets
She can't get it
into,
done then, can she?
say
What?
that again?
That hose testing,
What do you mean?
1 year
Right,
of
but
fire
that's,
hose testing is 21.
that's for doing every hose in the building.
For 6,500 feet of hose.
Every hose on the, on all the trucks, they said all the hoses were on the trucks.
Right.
So that's, but,
So instead of testing
but like Jay
6,500
said, we just got hoses on engine one.
Right,
Okay, it just went into service 2 weekends ago.
right.
Okay, she's saying we're gonna have that we should test those hoses again, but we've got other hoses.
Next year,
Right? No, in 2019.
right, next
Okay,
year.
right. But we haven't tested the other hoses ever.
Oh, this is the first one.
This is the first time we're testing
So
hoses.
so we're gonna take brand new hoses. They're not even a year old, and we're gonna test them at the same time we're testing hoses that could be 10 years old.
So we're just lessening the quantity of the
Less,
feet
so
Right.
that she
of the
does,
hosing.
Right. So she's
instead
gonna
of doing
do.
annual testing
She's
of
gonna
hose,
do
do it every 2 years.
3,250 feet instead of 6,500.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're gonna cut that in half.
Right. So that takes 1073 off of that budget.
Let's use a round number on that.
That's what I did, 1073, because it was at 50 cents.
Yeah.
So that's
It can't be
1,073?
1073.
1073.
2145,
7250.
2145 divided by 2 is 1073.
That makes that line
Why don't we just do-
3732.
1,050 or something. 1,070.
1,075,
Yeah,
right?
1,075, something.
Because I like 1073, but that's fine.
1070.
We just like round numbers. that's all.
1,075.
Round up or round down?
And always to the 5 or the 0.
So
Right.
3732. Is that what
Do
we're
it to
calling that line?
75, because then we can say we rounded it up.
$42.35.
Huh?
3732.
And you gotta add, so you.
Plus the 500.
Plus the 500.
Oh,
I have 42.35. I'll check my dog. 250 plus 210. 250 plus 210 plus 300 plus 1500 plus 400.
4235.
That's what I said. Plus 1075 plus 500. 42.35. That's what I said, didn't it?
but you didn't believe yourself. That's why you did it. a
Well, you
second
both
time.
remember it, and it was.
Okay.
Wasn't it? That's 430. Line 430.
Oh, wait a minute, I thought we already came up
We
with
did.
4305.
But then we
No,
just
that's-
took. But then we just took off
That didn't include the hose testing.
Oh,
Then we
Right.
cut off half the host
That was just when he added the,
the 500, so we were
500.
starting with the same number.
yeah,
Okay, so now we're down to 4235 is your BOS number.
yeah.
Mhm.
What are we doing on this fire chief stipend?
10,000, leaving it where it was.
You'll explain that to her? Will you explain that to her?
Yeah, ultimately, the select board
Yeah, yeah.
decide raises, right? Line 740.
Yeah, we, so let's see, so we had 4375 divided by 6.
So what have we reduced this about
720.
3,100 so far?
730
I haven't been tallying.
Okay.
minus 4.
Which line item are you at, Jay?
At 740, the equipment new replace.
So
I just, sorry, John, go ahead.
if we did the 4 nozzles
Mhm.
and we rounded up again, 2920 on nozzles instead of 4375.
2920.
Okay, and I looked at the harnesses, they've used them, what'd she say, 6 times in the last 15 years? I think that was her, or I'm close anyway on a guesstimate.
Mhm.
Do we need to buy 4? Can we buy 2 this year and 2 next year?
I'm good with that.
And we'll still buy all the rope, the carabiners, but I just think 4. Do they ever put 4 people at a time in a harness?
Probably only a training.
Well, that's another thought, you know?
But
Well, she said some of the harnesses are getting weak, right, or something, but
Right.
that's okay, still 2 and 2 is good. If
Right.
it just gets them
Well,
that thing of just replacing,
Yeah, I mean,
rotating.
so that moves out.
we're not saying no, we just like to do it in
Yeah.
smaller
It's gonna be
bites.
325.
So, yeah, 325.
Right.
Did that one in my head.
There you go.
So what's that?
25, and everything else stays the same?
I don't see a reason to change any, I mean, on the ice rescue suits, I could
Did they
defer to
need
my cohort in crime here, John, and we could buy him some of that.
That Flex Seal?
The Flex
That
Seal.
stuff is that stuff is awesome. I
But
just
I
just
would-
sprayed. I had a my pop-up tent had a little tear in it. It was getting weak. I sprayed that, rubberized the whole thing. It was beautiful.
But I wouldn't, I think,
Put you in the suit.
yeah, right, yeah. That's why I think 2 new ice rescue suits is fine. Yeah. So what do we do with that?
So
number?
that reduces that line item by 1780. So 13084 minus 1780. How about I hit all the numbers? 13084 minus 1780. 11304.
What's your thought on this mileage that she's been getting?
That she's been
Which
getting.
never came through,
It was brought up last year.
There was some
the
discussion.
board has never discussed and approved paying the fire chief mileage for her vehicle. And if you have that in meeting minutes,
I know.
Send it to
I know.
We discussed, as you said earlier, the 35 cents a mile, but I don't know as if we ever established that we would pay anybody.
Well, I remember last
We
year.
just
I think
said
I think it came
cost.
up again in budgeting last year because we asked. There was a line item that she was using mileage and it had gone up significantly, and we asked why, and she said because she was using her personal vehicle because they did not have a command vehicle. It came up in discussions last year.
so is there a reason why, would it be advantageous for us to speak with Tim about turning over that detail car and using that for,
Can't hurt.
Can't hurt. I mean, what would the transition of that vehicle cost us? As far as,
Nothing. You take the NIPD off the door and
Change the color of the lights.
and are there? Yeah, you got to change the colors. Got to change the lights. Is there any computers in there that have to be taken out?
The radio.
I don't think any of that's in there.
I believe there's a radio
Detail
in there, but
car.
I don't believe
Yeah.
there's a computer in there.
Okay, I'm just,
And I think
looking
there
at-
should be a radio in there, if they're gonna use it for some sort of,
Yeah, but does she need
Right.
a fire radio versus?
She-
No, they should have-
well, she can take it out of her other, whatever
well, no,
vehicle
they
she's
should have a
using.
frequency on that radio
Okay,
to just turn a knob.
And she
But I
does,
mean,
she does.
like, as I'm thinking now, and I'm just talking out loud, if we're trying to use that as a command vehicle,
Mhm.
do those have a back seat?
I've only been in one,
Hard-
not that
hard
one.
plastic.
I've only been in one my whole life, yeah,
Not
it's a
very
hard
comfortable.
plastic.
You
No,
don't
you
wanna
slide
spend a
across
lot
the
of
back
time.
too.
But I mean, the guys, when they go to a training class and they take the command vehicle, is that something that's gonna?
No, you're not gonna wanna ride the Concord in the backseat of that.
Well,
So you look at that. So what,
Well, she says she's only sending two.
call the
Just
judge,
two
ask
seats.
them how much for a back seat, I bet you they give us one.
do they pop out, pop in? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
They
know.
just
They,
take
but
the
those
regular seat
probably
out.
just screw out, but yeah, then the
Well,
other ones
they
would
take
just
the
go
regular
in.
seat
What kind
out,
of
put
vehicle
this
are you
in,
talking about?
It's a Crown Vic.
Oh.
but it's got a hard plastic in the
yeah.
Yeah.
back so that if they get a prisoner, they don't have it. And it can secure them, and if they get.
They wash them all with a garden hose.
Yeah.
But I don't know, is
You
it
slide
worth
across the
looking at
back.
that?
Yeah, you should look into it. Yeah, I'll be seeing Tim tomorrow morning,
Is
Thursday
it,
morning.
is it inspectable and?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they use it for police details,
Yeah.
rather than tying up one of the police cruisers, so,
Then what would they use?
one of their
They'd have to use
cruisers.
one of the cruisers at that point, yeah.
Well, when's he due for another cruiser? Didn't he just get one?
No,
No.
No,
No?
my second
I
year.
think
that-
next year is,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
because I think it's every 3 years.
But what they, yeah, and if they're worried about it, then, you know, they would have to figure it out and use the chief's car.
Say that again?
I said if they were in a bind, they could use the chief's car. They got two cruisers on the chief's vehicle, correct?
you're talking for a call or something.
Right, yeah, like it,
I'm
yeah.
thinking fire department.
No, not for the
What
fire
chief
department,
doesn't
no,
have one,
no.
yeah.
No, I
Okay, I
wanted to
get what you're
clarify
saying,
that.
yes.
No, what I'm
yeah.
saying is if they
Yes,
were,
I
if the
understand.
fire department was in a bind, we have three vehicles technically. I mean, the police department was
Police
in a bind,
department, yes,
yes.
because I was thinking
Yeah,
fire
No,
department.
no,
would-
if the police
yes.
department's in a bind, we
Yeah.
do
What are
have,
you doing with the old, what's wrong with the old command vehicle?
it can't be fixed. Like you
Well,
would,
it can be fixed, but we've decided we don't wanna spend
Spend-
$9,000 to fix it. It's not just
Yeah.
ours.
Okay.
yeah, it wouldn't
One of
pass.
those
So are
that's
you
so
selling
old,
it, or-
yeah, and that's why I asked.
It's
what
actually,
was that,
we
where
bought
is
it, we either bought it or got it used.
Oh,
Right, somebody
It's,
gave it.
yeah,
well, no,
someone
they
gave it,
to
or
us,
we, or
bought
they
it.
bought it from some auction site or something.
So how do we do? What do we got? Anybody been
No.
giving totals on this?
Have we got a tally here?
You got a who?
Do we ever get things from White Farm, notices from White Farm when we get rid of?
Peter does, excuse me. Oh, used to.
We haven't buying nothing
Well,
up there,
usually
and,
the stuff.
100 years.
yeah,
You doing the new numbers?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
before we go too far, one of the things though that we should, before we finalize this budget,
Yep.
is find out the communications,
Yeah,
because that has got to change.
sure.
And
Well, I already took a chunk out of it.
where,
I took out the 1689.
Well, we can't until we find out what we're spending on and what we're
Right.
not spending it on. So
All communications, so I can phone them.
if you took it out,
yeah,
I can put it-
530,
yeah, I didn't mess with that line just because we weren't sure what.
that was a
What was amiss?
$1,700 increase.
Right, so hold on one sec, so. I'm gonna give you two numbers.
Yep. I want the number with communications in.
Alright, so the number with communications in it is 119297.
and the communications is just as she's got it?
Yes.
We gotta investigate that. So that's actually less than the 18 budget.
Yeah,
Like $600 or so.
Yep,
Yeah.
and then if we can fix that communication, obviously it's gonna go down, so.
Right. So
Good luck with that. Comcast is
See, I'm surprised, because when I needed that extra line put downstairs, we ended up getting a Verizon line, it was cheaper. But,
Residential, business.
well, this is business.
This is business, yes, but you're talking residential.
No, he's talking downstairs here.
Downstairs, this is residential.
All right.
Okay, so we'll wait to finalize that, to see how Colata makes out with Comcast and
Sure.
if not. Cause I just got emailed recently from, Consolidated,
Yeah.
Business that they're trying to reach out and, so that's it for budgets.
That's it from
Okay,
Let's move on to,
we punch all
the
these
Dubuck
pages.
Bridge, River Road Bridge.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So
Alana, can you close out the budget committee meeting has ended?
Okay,
Portion
yeah.
of this meeting?
It was at 9:20, oh my God.
okay. So
And that Mark was absent.
Yeah.
Had to leave.
we had to leave. So in the meeting the other day, with the planning board, they did violate wetlands and surface water conservation overlay district. Articles 10D, 1A, and 3AB. So the planning board suggestion to us,
Thank you, guys.
and I am in favor of it, that there should be a letter to the engineers and owners outlining the variances based on the specific RSAs, and that they will need to file a variance with the ZBA to build in the wetlands, and a change in use letter should be applied to the planning board should the ZBA feel that is the next step, or the selectmen / zoning board, ZBA feel that. But all they'll have to do with the planning board is file a letter requesting change of use. But they will need to file a variance with the ZBA in order to build in the wetlands.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good night, thank you.
Did you see the email from Bert?
Well, I saw the letter that Bert,
Yeah, I saw that one,
Mhm.
but you're saying that, they only violated one ordinance under that ZBA, which I.
10D, 1A, and 3AB. The Wetlands and Surface Water Conservation Overlay District.
And what were the other two?
Those are just specific,
What are you reading from?
His notes.
my notes.
Oh, okay.
Because we sent them a letter already outlining the ones that they were,
But we never, no one ever included, because all they kept seeing or whatever was use within the wetlands, you know? And they never, what we figure they never read or read into it is the surface water. That's where they violated it. Not in the, because if they did what they say they did, which means they came out and someone delineated the wetlands, because they said they hired someone to come out and delineate the wetlands. If they did all that, they did not violate the wetlands,
correct.
but they did violate the surface water. So they're obviously within the setback of the surface water.
My only question is this, John.
Mhm.
What would this new letter add that the previous letter did not? Do you have a copy of that previous letter?
I have this one. I have the one that Bert sent to Miss Darrow.
Board of Selectmen.
There's so much stuff on this thing. Well, all we're saying is what we basically, I guess, what the whole deal is I mean, in what my understanding is we keep allowing Miss Darrow to argue with us.
Yes, exactly.
There's no argument, and that's what they're saying is basically you have to come in and file a variance with the ZBA. No questions asked per these two. We've never, that, as far as I know, that has never been 100% stated. but I'm looking for it.
Is this one?
No. No. It was the one I gave to you, and I delineated all the zoning ordinances,
Okay.
and you wrote them down
Oh, okay.
and sent it to her. It may have been an
I
email,
think it was an email.
Yeah?
Yeah.
but it should be in that folder, no? If that's, unless it's out of the folder.
Trying to go all the way back and find this thing.
This one went to the owner. Now, does that match the same ones you have in your notes?
All I have is 10D, 1A, and 3AB. Yeah,
Was on
so,
it.
right, 10D, 3A and B. I don't have anything for 4B and 4C1 or 4D. These are the ones that they outlined, that Liz
Those
outlined.
are others that they're still,
Okay. But, again,
but I'm doing this from memory. We sent that, she responded back, and I had asked you to send a letter directly straight to the owner.
mhm.
Did that go out? Do you have another letter?
Okay, so let me take that.
Yeah.
So that was September 24.
I'm thinking this would have been probably in, end of October sometime.
Yeah, I was trying to find, at one point I had all those. I had printed off all those because I had the whole email chain.
All right, why don't you do this? I would draft a letter to the owner outlining those same points again.
Okay.
Um,
And that both the planning board and the ZBA concur that those violations existed and need to be addressed. And I'm hoping that the planning board is going to make them address the engineering.
They
The-
said that with what the planning board said, that is what the ZBA can request. And when they say we want a variance, the ZBA would then
Okay.
tell them, you will get your variance when all these other pieces are addressed. But yes, that all came
Yeah.
up because we
Yeah.
said, because I mean, that was one of the topics.
Excuse
One of the topics that came up is because we said, well, if it doesn't meet the standards for a vehicle, I said because at this point they have not filed a building permit across the street, but.
Right, for,
Right, so when they come in, that would be something the ZBA was like, well, did you build this bridge for no reason, or is there an intention for a building lot?
They wouldn't need to go to the ZBA.
No, but, but it'd be one of those, it's one of those things, if there is, if there's an intention of a building lot,
That's what it is.
right, then at that point, it's like, well, are you planning on having emergency services over there? And if yes, then you need to, this
Let's
is
say
why.
he says no.
Then you make sure that that's in writing, that,
I would say we should not, and please get this on the record or whatever, but the building department should not issue a building permit until this is all resolved.
no, and
I would agree.
I agree 100%. But I mean, what came, I mean, that actually came up. I said, if he were to look at us and say, I don't want emergency services, then that would have to be on some
We
sort of
can't
record.
waive that.
Well, on private roads, they've
Yeah.
signed that waiver.
Yeah.
Right, that we may not be able to
Right.
get
Right.
there, but we can't say we're not
We
going
release,
to.
yeah.
Yeah,
You-
we're
you
gonna release you
this,
because you
yeah.
don't want it. You know what kind of liability the town would be in?
But if we go there and can't get over his bridge, well,
Right.
then that's another thing.
And that's what I'm
Right.
saying. So if they say, well, we don't want emergency services, I'm not submitting the thing, then we can go, well, then we won't submit the building permit. I mean, those are but
Yeah.
like I said, the planning board said unless, the planning board can't take the step until the ZBA says, I want the variance,
Correct.
and these are the things you will need to present in order to get your variance. And then the planning board, and this is the funny part, I will get to, where we basically, like, what is the change of use? It's not crossing a river with a vehicle to crossing a river with a vehicle.
Constructing a bridge.
No,
Sure
that
is.
doesn't, that's not the change of use.
It's not a change of use, it's,
That's all the planning board can issue is a change of use. That's all they can apply to the planning board on is a change of use. Because all we have is the bridge. So the change of use for the wetlands or the water, surface water, the change of use was crossing a bridge with not crossing the water with a vehicle to crossing the water with the vehicle. Because that was,
I think the point is that the bridge came out of use. It was removed, it came out of use. You wanna
For
put
many,
another,
many years.
for many, many
Yeah.
years, you wanna put in a bridge, that's fine. But you're not grandfathered, 'cause
right.
your time
Oh,
has
no, and
lapsed.
that's all in our notes that they fell out of grandfather. But, it's the change of use of the wetlands is, you're now using the wetlands to cross in a vehicle. It was just, I just wanted, it was a long meeting.
How bad? Kinda like this one.
Yeah, it was,
Can you have that? And I'll try and stop by tomorrow to sign it.
Sure.
but I said, the whole thing could have been handled properly if they came to the town office.
Yeah.
They just came to the town office and
Yep.
went to
Right, found out how to do it.
the planning office. Instead, they went, well, we didn't see it, so it didn't exist. Oh, and you didn't answer us, so we already built it.
Yeah.
So is the bridge built?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been sitting there.
Better ask for forgiveness than get permission.
And I looked, and in that email chain, I think from the time they asked for something to be answered to the time the bridge was put there was under 9 days.
Oh, and when the bridge company called, Mike so-and-so from the bridge company, I'm just doing this little project.
Yeah.
And everything's all set.
No, with us.
And yeah, the
Yeah.
bridge was built.
Yeah, the bridge was already built. Brought in a crane, the whole deal, dropped it in place.
Oh, I see, prefab it.
Yeah, they built it somewhere else, brought it in, and dropped it on the pylons that were already there.
So they can pick it off just as easily and bring it back to where they brought it from.
Oh, that was
Motion?
I got-
I was about to say,
one-
that was a
one brief
whole
thing.
that was a whole other thing. You can't tell them to remove it.
Something very brief.
Sure.
I appreciate all the people that went out and put out their signs for their candidates before the election, but the election is over. So I would appreciate that you would go around now and pick up all the signs that you put out. It's not the job of the DPW, it's not the job of the DOT, and it's not the job of those that'll pick up trash in the spring. You put it out, please pick it up. Thank you.
Motion to go into non-public are under RSA 91A3.